Hello, everybody. Welcome to a exciting episode of Covenant Live, where we're talking about the Web3 revolution in tabletop gaming.
One of Steven's favorite topics, NFTs.
We're also going to be talking about AI art, very much in the news, at least in my segment of the news here recently for a number of reasons. Going to go into how this all kind of came about. I mean, the long and short of it is we saw SolForge Fusion make an NFT spin.
Web3 NFT thing.
We saw the new Wonders of the First Kickstarter that you've been getting ads about incessantly on Facebook for. They have AI art or AI generated segments.
Their weekend and at $1.5 million in funding.
Of the art, yeah. And then just in general, like obviously there's this whole world that was really taken off in 2020, 2021, 2022. Actually, 2022, 23, I think is when it all kind of came crashing down. And we did was it a stream that we did previously talking about NFTs and stuff? And I was like, Zach, I just don't understand. And I left that stream and I thought to myself, this is one of the first things maybe I just truly don't understand. I just don't understand it. And then I got to thinking, I was like, you know what, maybe I don't understand it because it doesn't actually make sense. I started to have a little confidence in
Occam's
myself.
razor?
Yeah, a little confidence. And then I thought, well, we'll see, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how it ends up. And everything kind of died. Literally, I think like the last readout that I got this weekend was that 95 to 99% of all NFT collections have gone to zero. So just keep that in the conversation, right? It was the next big thing and all the celebrities are doing it and Gary Vee's in there. He's got his role in all of this. And Jake Paul and Logan and all those guys are in there. And there's Pokemon necklaces and everyone's like, can you imagine if this was all not real? Yeah, can you imagine?
What if it was digital?
What if it was just a picture?
To Gary Vee's credit, he said 97 and 99% of all of these products will fail miserably.
Yeah.
Just like early internet.
But I saw some really interesting clips of him being very much behind a lot of the early CryptoPunks Bored Ape stuff. And he made a ton of money, I'm sure. Listen, this is what it's all about.
One thing's always true. You know what I mean?
By the way, it's all about that. But I don't
see who would benefit.
I don't want to give away the ghost. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about my journey. So what happened last time we had this conversation is I got sick. I got like a cold or the flu. I can't remember what it was last time. It's COVID, I think, last time. It was like 2 years ago. COVID.
Okay, keep going.
And I went down.
Oh, you were sick going down the rabbit
I took that what was it? Stanford blockchain class. I read all the literature. I looked at all the videos. I wanted to understand the idea of this ledger that is decentralized and what we could do with it and proof of stake versus proof of work and all of these kinds of machinations that people just seemed really into, certain people. And I came away from that and we had a conversation about it, I believe it was on stream. And and it kind of went over the concepts of, it could be useful in these kinds of ways, maybe this way, maybe we could thread through and find some value here. And that kind of was the end of it. And honestly, Zach, I thought that was probably going to be the end of it until some grand revolution of we finally figured out how to actually create value with the blockchain happens. And it's like U.S. government votes on we're going to blockchain all land records. And then we'd be like, oh, well, there it is. Okay, that's what it's for. And then I thought I was going to hear about it. And then sure enough, what happens? I get sick again on Wednesday this last week. I go home. I dive in. I see this one of the first things going on. And I'm like, what is happening? And then what does it do? It sends me into freaking Web3 blockchain research yet again. And I spend the next 3 to 4 days looking at all this stuff, tracking it down like a true journalist, getting the bios on everybody involved.
That's what this is, journalism.
Who's who and who's playing who and what's that and where did they come from and what's the history?
Yeah. Got
all of that in. And then I was left with kind of this, I feel like we need to talk about this again because now here it is yet again. We have Justin Gary and Stoneblade is doing their thing, and that, of course, had an impact. And then we have the Wonders people doing it, and then there's likely going to be more of this moving forward.
I remember the first time we talked about this, and then we constantly made jokes about it for a long time.
Yes.
Like this is a recurring...
Well, that's recurring across the internet, really.
And before we dive into this, worth noting... we're inherently fungible, interested people.
Yeah, pretty biased, I would say. If you're like a really big Web3 fan, you're probably just not going to like listening to this.
Well, you might, but I would love to hear from you if you get it.
But I know what the answer is going to be.
Well,
it's always the same thing.
Back then, though, at least, when we were discussing it, it was hypothetical uses, not actual uses. So the interesting thing in this moment is not only are these actual uses, but these are actual uses in Tabletop.
Right.
So instead of hypothetically talking about them, we can actually talk about them.
But we're still hypothetically talking about them, Zach, because it's all hypothetical.
We will get there, but we at least have someone attempting to utilize these things in this space.
Yes.
Versus 2 years ago, the best thing we had was like the MetaZoo coin. And it's like...
Maybe.
I mean, the whole project was sort of...
Well...
I'm saying MetaZoo.
Yeah, in good company, yeah.
Let alone them stacking coins on top. So... that is what is appealing about it to me, is that love it or hate it. And Altered was doing a similar thing-ish.
Yeah, they've got it involved.
They have digital ownership, but it's not NFT.
Are they not blockchain in it?
I don't think so. I think it's their own proprietary thing. But that's where, a month or two ago, we talked about this idea of digital ownership. And they're divorcing... physically holding the card from the ownership of something.
Right.
You do own a print of that card, but you don't own the rights to that card. And they're having a bunch of unique cards, and that's a whole thing. So anyways, we have two prime examples here that...
And before we get there, we're also... The second part of this is AI art. Because this is something that has been traveling around the tabletop industry for a while. Wonders brings it to the fore. We've seen magic artists get blasted for... hey, this looks like AI. Hey, there's artifacts in this. Oh, whoops, we didn't actually use AI. And then, oh, whoops, we actually did. Oops, sorry, everybody. And all of this kind of stuff. So there's just AI art stuff that is bubbling.
Yeah.
And you can either just kind of like sit around, or you can at least have a take. And so we're not just us going to have a take. We're bringing in the one and only Andrew Navaro from award-winning title, Earthborne Rangers, Earthborne Games. Head of studio there, former head of studio for Fantasy Flight Games, is an artist, has done a lot of art for Earthborne Rangers, has managed artists working on art for Earthborne Rangers, has managed art as the art director of Fantasy Flight Games for a long time, and has, of course, a lot to say about the use of AI and AI tools in the process of creativity. And I am curious to get his take, even though I kind of have an idea about what he's going to say. So
hello, Veronica.
We will, and it's worth noting, like, a lot of this budding stuff, the AI art piece especially, is it's tricky because there's two things for me coming into this. One is I recognize that behind a lot of this Web3 stuff and behind a lot of these AI artists that are using AI in their work, there is certainly a degree of passion, and there's certainly tons of humanity, and these are real people, right? So like, blasting the thing that they care about a lot is not great. Don't like that. On the other hand, there is this continual feeling with certain cultures and certain innovations that this is a place we should not tread, or this is something that is not healthy or beneficial for society. I'm sure there's a lot of very passionate people working over at Facebook. I think Facebook is bad, right? So I'm going to try to differentiate those things. So if you're working on projects involving AI art, if you're working on projects involving NFTs and Web3, you are a wonderful person, I hope, and I'm sure. I see that humanity there. So this is going to be trying to remove the people who might have a different perspective on this from the equation and kind of look at the technology itself and what it means for the world and certainly for the industry of tabletop. So as you were saying, here's what happened, Zach.
What was I saying?
Here's what happened. Check this out. So let me. I don't even go to the computer yet. I'm in this jacket because I'm about to go ski after this. So I just got to get. I'm just kidding. I just knew I was going to be cold, so I wore a jacket today.
Yeah.
So if you're like, why in the world is he? I'm not flexing or anything. I know this is an expensive jacket. I actually got it for free.
Not expensive at all.
It was $0, like so many
That's
NFTs.
The
Arc'teryx.
Arc'teryx.
Yeah, it's the Canadian Patagonia, but apparently better. I don't know. Jury's out. So here's what went down, right? So
take me down your fever dream.
Suddenly, out of essentially nowhere, there's a TCG Kickstarter that happens. Wonders of the First. And I think Jeff is the main guy, Jeff French. I think even if we talk negatively about this, he's probably an all publicity is good publicity guy. He's in this for the marketing thing. So he's probably like, cool, I love it. Yeah, you got talk on.
One thing I was going to add before we open this up, we're biased. Mm-hmm. We're very fungible
we're human
people. We like fungible things. Second piece is it's two people genuinely trying to understand.
I've been through that, yeah.
Like that's what's happened. Even this discussion, there's no... I don't wish like the team, any of these people doing this stuff ill. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. And I've tried to understand deeply and so often and so much. And I feel like I'm really in a good position to understand. Like I've spent a lot of my life focusing on trying to understand
your hip
overly complex topics. I mean, it's in philosophy, for God's sakes. I mean, I'm talking about monads.
If you can do anything, that's what you should be able to do.
I mean, I should be able to suss out what the value equation is in this and how it all works and what are the propositions and all this. So what happens is a Kickstarter comes up. It's a TCG Kickstarter. Now, as you might expect, Zach and I and a lot of people on our Discord and anyone who's in the broader tabletop gaming market has seen a lot of TCG Kickstarters come through.
Seen a lot of TCGs.
Past 4 years has been crazy. We've seen so many TCGs come through. And almost every one of those TCGs is either a publisher that is known, a tiny publisher that nobody knows, or has had rumblings throughout the industry before the Kickstarter has gone down. Take Warlord, for instance, right? So we've known Warlord and we've been talking to those guys and kind of working that out. We've known that the Kickstarter is coming for quite a while, that game is going to come to Kickstarter, and this is the whole show. Sorcery is similar, right? It's okay, there's this game that I think is getting worked on in New Zealand. They got this fantasy artist. There's these art pieces that are starting to show up. Okay, so this is like a known thing that's coming in. So for something to show up just kind of randomly without any accoutrement, any like announcement, is very rare. In fact, it's really never happened unless it's one of those Kickstarters. It's like, it's like the one guy, and it's like, here's 5 cards, and
you're saying most of the time before a game has Kickstarter, we've heard about it.
Or it's a known publisher, or there's some kind of roots in the tabletop industry that says, hey, there's a TCG coming.
Yeah, like even Altered.
I was
hearing about that months ago.
Yeah, a mile away. And even if it just randomly dropped to be like, Asmodee supported, they made all the different board games that went really... So, okay, we know who these people are, and this is like a normal thing. They want to make a game in the space. Got it. So the Kickstarter goes up and like instantly goes to like $1 million in a day. And that just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen for a random, unknown TCG, right? So then you look and it's like, okay, so I'm interested. I'm like, well, what am I? How did I get? Where am I? I'm supposed to have my eye on the ball here. I'm supposed to know all these games coming down the pipe and talking to different publishers, getting my feet out in the industry, figuring out, are we going to...
So are you failing, or is there something weird?
I was like, I must have failed. Well, you'd sent me the thing about it a few weeks ago because you got a bunch of Facebook ads about reprints or theft and all of this. I'm like, I just write that one off. But then it comes in and it's like, whoa, why is this happening? Right? That's a natural response, right?
I'm excited for
why is it happening, Zach? I mean, this is just... Who's giving them the money? Where's the money coming from?
Where did the $1 million come from?
Why did it suddenly blow up in the way that Altered did, even though nobody in the industry knows what this is?
Do you know how many people backed it at that stage? What are we at now? 1.5 million.
It was like 1,000 people, but they were all spending like $800 or $900 or $1,000. It was like a crazy spend. So also, it's crazy expensive.
1.5 million ish.
1.4.
2,300 backers. Mm-hmm. So. If we just won 450.
But it shot up at the very beginning and kind of then flatlined. And they usually do that.
So, it's about $600 a person.
$600, $630 a person.
In like sorcery context, I don't know how much their boxes are, but that's like 4 boxes a case. That's not an abnormal TCG purchase.
Early on, the ratio was skewed, right? And come to find out that maybe that was people pooling their buys into one person buying for like 8 people. Because that was being suggested on their Discord, which I read from top to bottom once I found out what was going on. But so it's like, okay, I got to figure this out. So then let's look. Jonathan, can you get me to the HDMI?
Let's see if I press the right button about the first time.
So here's the thing.
Hello.
All right, I think y'all can, as long as you can still hear me. You still hear me?
Yeah.
Here's the thing that got my attention aside from just all of this. So the next thing that you do is you say, okay, well, who are these people? And then it's like, well, this is kind of interesting. Zach, this is a ton of people.
Yeah, I mean, I felt Altered had a ton of people too, right? Like it was a big team. I remember seeing a big photo.
Yeah.
So how many is this?
A ton of people. Let's see. 3 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
27 people.
So about 30-person company that I've never heard of before launches a TCG and is finding instant success. And I'm like, what is going on?
Andrew Fisher's saying, by the way, about 33% of total right now is raised from 57 backers.
33% from 57. Yeah, that's that.
So it's like 500 grand from.
Those are the whales, or it's like mom and dad. You know, sometimes we love your project.
I bet $1,000 for 50 people.
And it's like all digital, so it's all digitized art.
No,
which
$10,000.
I can understand if people want to like hide their identity in the age of the internet. I understand that. But then you start looking at the cards and like it's instantly AI art, like obvious. For me, the first thing that
what's
I thought,
obvious about that?
You know, Zach, I would love to be able to break that down.
You saw this and you thought this looks like AI.
This is instantly AI to me.
It's actually, to me, it's even just leaning into the style of this as AI art.
Yeah, like it's like
it's trying to be AI art.
They're not scared of it.
Yeah, it's
It's AI.
To look like.
It's AI. It's a benefit.
So then you start reading, you're like, well, Brian, Brian from Magic the Gathering did some Magic the Gathering sets, is involved. So I was like, well, okay, well, that's a guy.
That's a name.
Brian Tinsman. Okay, I can understand that. We're talking about capturing stones. We're talking about collectability. Okay. And then Art and World Reimagined, new distinctive style of cards, bold art. Okay. But like, I don't know. What does that mean? Are we AI?
The art does look different than a lot of games I've seen.
Yeah, it's full art. I mean, I'm not hating.
Like the percentage of this card that's art here is high compared to a lot of games.
Yeah, we love it. It's okay. And then look at the products. Look really, that's nice. This is like, whoa. This is like actually fairly well done. What is this? Where did this come from? Who are these people? So then I started Googling, Zach. I started Googling like any great sleuth would. And I went down and I just started Googling everybody and looking at their LinkedIn and their Twitters
the people.
And all of that because I want to know who the people are that are behind this. And it's pretty obvious from the very beginning that this is a Web3 company that is launching a TCG.
So Web3 company.
You can go to the main shot, John.
That is funding a TCG company.
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
Just for the people who are joining us late. One of the reasons that you dove so quickly in there is because you've had a cold for the past 3 days and were laying in bed. And so this is all you were doing.
I was taking like cough medicine and just going down
just researching
rabbit holes. It's like my favorite thing to do.
It's super
I
fun.
love it. I love it so much. So I'm like, okay, what is going on? So this is a company. There's this mothership company called Blokpax, which is a Web3 company that's been around since I think 2020-ish or so. And they have a subsidiary called Wonders of the First LLC. And Wonders of the First is a secondary team that is tasked with making this TCG. And so you might say, oh, I think I've found something here. This is why it's so weird. Because this is why I haven't heard of these people. This is why it's suddenly blowing up, because this is coming from a totally different world than tabletop normal.
An example of that to me would be if I bought the equipment to be able to print a TCG, and then I was like, I'm going to do to make this factory successful, I'm going to spin off a company to utilize said factory.
Sure.
Make a thing. And then presumably, maybe hopefully, I want other publishers to utilize my factory to make games as well. Part of how so here it's like we have this technology we want to use. We think it could work in TCG land. Let's make a TCG. If it's successful, other TCGs will come to us and want to use our technology. Is that what?
No, I don't think that's it at all.
Okay.
I don't think they're trying to make other TCGs.
Well, they want other TCGs to come to them to use this technology.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No. In fact, you will later find out that the Web3 part of this is almost non-existent. But knowing the mindset and the personalities that this kind of project comes from informs a lot of the culture that you're seeing around it. So what I did next is I went through and I said, okay, Blokpax, well, what is it? What does that mean?
What is Blokpax?
Zach, sit back for a second. I am going to read this
make another Americano
almost from top to bottom. I'm going to read you this summary of Blokpax. Okay?
I'm here for it.
Now, you're a collector, ostensibly. of some kind. I mean, you have more of a.
I don't think you can deny that I'm a collector.
You like collecting things.
He's not a speculator. He's more of a collector than a speculator. Yeah. I think that's important.
I'm collecting things with the intent to use them for the most part.
Yeah.
Whereas some people collect to collect, some people collect to make money eventually.
Yeah.
So the motive for collecting, I have a lot of card games, right? Old card games that even this box right here. Speaking of collectors, we'll open this in a little bit. This is the beginning of my Warlord CCG collection that we're going to open on stream. And I said collection, right? I am collecting.
Yeah.
But I'm not buying these because I thought, oh, this Kickstarter is about to pop off. And these are going to be worth a lot of money.
Right.
It was, I'm really interested in this game and I want to own a piece of this history in this game. And I want to be able to build my own decks with all these old cards. So here we are.
Which is, it's one of the, tabletop is one of these weird collectible markets, and NFTs and stuff are the same, where like the insider trading stuff is so easy to do if you're just unethical. Like, like if we knew Warlord was we've been talking to these guys for a long time, we could have bought out all the old Warlord stuff, been like, the Kickstarter's going live, and then just list it all.
Look who has all this inventory suddenly.
And there's nothing you can't, that's legal to do. And it's the same way with any NFT project or whatever. This is coming, you get in super early, and then you leave everybody else holding the bag, as it were. So let me tell you what Blokpax is, man.
Andrew Fisher's comment got me, I'm sorry. He said, Zach's mouth says, I'm here for it, but his eyes said, save me. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay. So Blokpax is a Web3 company that tokenizes physical trading cards, graded video games, and other memorabilia to bridge the gap between physical and digital collectibles. The product provides collectors with the opportunity to win valuable physical trading cards, memorabilia, and other items by earning entries into sweepstakes through holding certain Blokpax NFTs. By participating in these activities, collectors accumulate a collection while also potentially earning valuable rewards. There are many ways to collect and earn in the Blokpax ecosystem, and this guide will cover them all. Okay? Many ways.
So, is Wonders of the First using Blokpax?
Well, no, we haven't even gotten there yet.
Okay,
this is all before Wonders even was in existence. Okay?
Hit me.
This is the company that would later spin out Wonders of the First. Okay. Collect and earn. One way to collect and earn in the Blokpax ecosystem is collecting Blokpax digital trading cards, Infinite Moments. Collecting Infinite Moments earns you a variety of rewards that ultimately get you real physical collectibles. Find out more below. Now, the good thing about this project is that I understand physical collectible. It's like, okay, you get something at the end of the...
Digital things that give you access to physical things.
They give you the physical thing. So, Blokpax's Infinite Moments are NFTs that immortalize significant moments in sports and history. One can collect and earn rewards by holding Infinite Moments, Blokpax's digital trading cards. They come in a range of limited tiers or parallels, including a black 1-of-1 tier, and can be collected in sets to earn points toward Blokpax's upcoming native BPX reward token, entries into Razes, and other benefits. Here's an overview of the different parallel tiers. Silver is the most common, nobody cares. Aqua is 99, blue is 49, red is 25, gold is 10, black is 1-of-1. Now, Jonathan, can you take me to the thing here?
I can.
So, okay. Forgive me if I oversimplify this, but as far as I can tell, they create a digital template, and in the middle of that template, they write a random moment that has happened in sports. Michael Jordan makes his NBA debut, scoring 16 points with 7 assists and 6 rebounds for the Chicago Bulls against the Washington Bullets.
Bullets? The words.
It's just the words. And then...
Bullets?
And then what they do with that is then they take that sentence...
Before they were the Wizards.
They take that sentence, and then they release NFTs, and there's a black one, and then there's 10 gold ones that have that written on it, and then there's 25 red ones that have that written on it, and on it goes, and then you buy them. You buy them, Zach.
Well, if people are buying them, why aren't we selling them? We can print those for days.
You buy them.
Print them.
You chose a moment.
And wrote some text.
And
you sold it.
And then they buy them.
And then someday, somehow, you're going to do something with it.
Maybe. You're just happy to have it because you got the 1-of-1. There's only one of it.
Okay.
So you got the black Infinite Moment, and there's only one, so that's got to be worth a lot.
Okay.
Right?
How does this relate?
Because rarity is the only thing that matters when it comes to value. You will later find out in the Web3 universe.
Ooh.
Infinite moments will also work. Infinite moments will also work to reimagine what is possible with proof of attendance protocols. They will do this, which are NFTs given to attendees of certain events as proof of attendance. While most POAPs have struggled to create collector demand, Infinite Moments will bring a new angle to POAPs. Infinite Moment POAPs can be created for events that a collector has attended or participated in, and then minted in the same parallels as other card types. Some POAPs will be randomly distributed to eligible recipients and can be traded like other Infinite Moment NFTs. It's intended to be a foundation for potential applications in the metaverse and aims to engage and provide value to its collector base. These NFTs will offer rewards for staking and can be traded on the Polygon blockchain through secondary marketplaces like OpenSea. Some will be crowd slabs, which are NFTs that you give away periodically to stakers. More importantly, Infinite Moments give the opportunity to get in on Raz drops. Okay? If you weren't in, you're in now. I can see it in your face.
You ever been in on a Raz drop?
This dude is he's getting razzed up.
He's ready for a Raz drop.
I've been known as a Razzler.
He's ready.
All right, Zach, well, let me tell you about the Raz drops. Each Raz drop corresponds to an Infinite Moment series, and by holding Infinite Moments from the current series, you'll gain entries into the Raz Earn. In other words, one Infinite Moment equals one Raz pack. Okay, that's an easy thing. We can all understand that. One Infinite Moment, one Raz pack. The packs contain different types of tokens, including instant winner tokens and Raz tokens.
So now there are packs of tokens.
Right.
With different rarities. And some of these tokens / packs you can only get from being somewhere physically.
Well, no, that's theoretical.
Whereas,
as far as I know, that has never happened.
What they were talking about, tokenizing an event attendance.
They were talking about it is a possible use for an Infinite Moment, where that could be a future thing, where if you know you're in an Infinite Moment in the present, you scan it, you scan the world. And
when being at a Taylor Swift concert is not enough, you take a selfie at a concert and post it. When that's not enough,
right,
you get a coin you can only get from going to this thing.
That's right. And maybe
when that's not enough, you get the black version of the coin, which is one of one. It's like that moment she slipped and fell.
Yeah.
And one of one, you're the guy that owns that moment.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm following.
And it's written there. It's written there on the digital.
Yep, I'm with it.
It's on the computer there. Okay, so we have instant winner token. Let's cover those first. They were introduced in 2021. They entitle the owner to win one item per token without having to survive elimination rounds. So this is when a collector finds an instant win token, they will not necessarily know what they have won until after the drop has completed and the prize is revealed. That adds an element of game theory that forces the collector to decide between holding the token for the instant prize or selling it on the secondary market, where other people might be trying to buy it because they think that the random thing you're about to get is they have no way to know what it is, but maybe it's going to be more valuable than what they just paid you.
I mean, I get that math because it's like sometimes you win a cold golden fab, and people sell it before they open it because
push the envelope over.
It's a hypothetical thing, but then you open it as a cold gold null ring gloves, and then you're sad.
Or it's like opening an alpha booster box of Magic or selling the sealed box.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Okay, we don't know what's
technically the right cards in the box could be worth more than the box, but the box is worth more than the worst box that you could open. So
the only difference is we don't actually know anything about what is going to be revealed. And they could reveal you get a chicken token. You never know. So past prizes have included things like a CryptoPunk V1 NFT. Okay, so
wait, now you win other things.
You win other NFTs
with hypothetical use cases.
No, they're not even hypothetical. They've gotten rid of the hypothetical, Zach. I finally got it out. It's just like it's just status. That's it. So the CryptoPunk, whenever the chain first spun up or what have you, and the NFTs started for the first time, there was two guys and they made a collection of things of pixelated avatars and they called them CryptoPunks.
It wasn't Adam and Eve?
And they released it. There was 10,000 of them, I think, and they released it onto the NFT thing. It's like, whatever. But because they were the first to do that, and Bored Ape was right behind them,
Bored Ape,
now it's just a prestigious thing. If you own one of these things, you were there, you have the history, there's a flex to it.
At least with Bored Ape, the premise was it's almost like Soho House.
Yeah, you can get into a club.
There will be clubs around the world that you can get into that you have to own one of these to get into.
Right.
I can sort of start to understand that.
Yeah.
I'm still, is there more to this?
Yeah, we'll get to it. So you can get a CryptoPunk V1, which is, the the first version, before they had to come do the second one because it was kind of weird. Joe Burrow.
Did you say it was called Crypto Bro?
CryptoPunk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's just my brain.
And you can put them, you see the guys with the avatars?
The apes.
There's the Bored Apes, and then there's CryptoPunk people. Those are the OGs, and then there's all sorts of different things that you can put on as your avatar.
Yeah.
And that is really, honestly, Zach, that is really what they're doing. Like, that is why they're buying them.
To use as an avatar.
To use as an avatar to signal to other people in the Web3 community, I'm one of you, and I was here first, or I just have a lot of money, which most of the people left now are those people because they can afford to lose it all, because it's totally speculative and provides no value to anybody. A Joe Burrow Flawless RPA 10 card. That's a real card. Joe Burrow, that's a real person.
We're fungible.
That's a physical card.
We're fungible now, boys.
And a PSA 10 2000 Bowman Tom Brady card. These are physical cards.
Nice. These are prizes.
These are real prizes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so you might win one of those physical things. Now let's talk about the
razzle dazzle. Razzle dazzle.
Let's talk about the Raz tokens, dude.
Oh, all right.
So it's an NFT representing a 1 in 2048 shot at winning the grand prize. The winner is determined through a series of elimination rounds where half of the prize's Raz tokens are eliminated each round. Tokens can be sold on the secondary market between those rounds. After each round, the Raz tokens become more valuable based on the expected value of winning a prize.
Yeah, so you cut half of them out. The ones that are left are now worth double the money.
You can understand it, right?
You get down to 4, and it's like, oh my goodness, I need to buy that Raz token.
The elimination stages continue until there's only one token left.
I see a Pikachu.
The sweepstakes winner then receives a Vault token NFT that is redeemable for the underlying physical collectible or the NFT itself if that is the prize. If the prize is a real physical collectible, the owner of the Vault token can request to have the physical item shipped to them at any time. So they burn the token and they get the physical item shipped to them for free. Furthermore, Raz tokens actually look pretty neat. They're split into 5 tiers, of course, because why wouldn't we? Silver, aqua, blue, red, and gold. And gold is Grail, which includes IWP. The tier corresponds to prizes that could be won through the sweepstakes. In addition, it's important to note that all Raz drops and eliminations are verifiably random on the blockchain. So what happens is they mint them or whatever they appear.
I mean, this is just the NFT lottery.
That's right. It's just a lottery.
You're buying a thing, and you have status and stuff, but then you might get a PSA 10 first edition Charizard.
Right. So you have like, let's say there's 8 cards in the sweepstakes. So you have 8 releases of 2048 tokens for each of those cards. All of them are hidden. You don't know if it's the winning token or not. And then you buy them. Although sometimes you don't. They give them away for free sometimes also. But you get the tokens, and then you can swap them around, and then there's an elimination where half of them disappear, and then you can swap them around again, and then half of them disappear, and you swap them around again. And then if you're holding the winning thing at the end of the thing, you can turn it in for the physical card. You can sell it on the NFT marketplace for somebody else who wants the physical card.
This is a project done by the company that spun off a company that did Wonders the First.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, this is where the ideas come from. Okay. They do 4 massive elite drops a year, et cetera, et cetera. But this is actually, I can understand this. This is just gambling.
I mean, you buy a coin.
It's fine.
And maybe you get a Tom Brady card.
Yeah, and it's fun, and you're gamifying lotterying. Rather than just buying a ticket and then waiting to see if you win, you buy a ticket, and then some of them are removed, and there's a game.
Sometimes you go somewhere and earn some things, and then you razzle dazzle, and
then we did it.
Okay.
And we did it.
Now,
of course,
you'd
have to say like any great lottery, I mean, you'd have to have the value of the prize has to be less than the entrance pay, or you would just consistently lose money.
You get enough people to pay $5, and you can give away some pretty cool stuff.
And they've given away some massive cards. Then we have crowd slabs. Watch out for this. Crowd slabs represent iconic trading cards, which can be auctioned off by Blokpax using the project's native BPX token. Once the auction closes, the reward token is distributed to crowd slabs holders of that asset on a pro rata basis. What as far as I can tell, this is there's a card. It's put into, and Jeff says it's put into a conservatorship of Blokpax, so they can't mess with it anymore.
It's like the what was that? The albums that were owned by the Web3 organization type. There's like the
DAO,
the
the autonomous organization,
they own
decentralized
the music that the original.
Oh yeah, they all owned a share of the rights to the music.
What music was that? You remember? It was something really. I mentioned them, and you were like, "You know who they are?" And I was like, "Only because of this thing."
Yeah, so it's that for collectible cards.
Okay, yeah, it goes into this thing in a vault that is collectively owned by all these stakeholders.
Mm-hmm. So I can own 5% of a first edition Charizard.
Yes, we talked about that.
And then I can sell my 5% share on the open market. And then if somebody collects them all, then they get the Charizard. Okay. Or if I don't know the rest of this. All right, Collision.art is an NFT collection that offers limited edition works that honor legendary figures. Each holder of these NFTs, historically significant asset. Users obtain Collision Art NFTs as hits in their Raz packs, or receive one for free with 100 Legends Pass NFTs. And these are distributed as free rewards.
Just for you.
I can't keep
you
going.
said okay, so...
But then you have Ledger of Things tokens. They replaced a similar concept. It's a collection of physical assets like trading cards that are in a digital vault. There's one copy, and this is the one that I think you own fractional shares of. There's that one as well. And then they did CryptoPunk trading cards. So they got permission from the owners of the CryptoPunks to spin those into actual trading cards, digital trading cards with the punks on them. They look like this. And then of course there's, I'm sure,
I've seen those.
So black, gold, red, blue, aqua, and then you try to get the one of one of the thing.
Yeah, I got it.
And then there's the Card Game Hall of Fame, which is kind of their, like if you look at this is their collection of all the NFTs that they have created. So you can buy one of these and then use it as your avatar. And then I think you also maybe get like perks, some kind of perks for that, digital perks. And then they've got
digital perks.
And then Lost Miners of the Ether. And this is where we're into the first. See, we're about to go into the first.
Oh, okay.
So this is where
you
this all
almost
happens.
lost me here.
Okay, so we have Ethereum, right? So Ethereum is like the new one. Everything else is kind of whatever.
ETH.
Ethereum is the new one, right? You don't want the Bitcoins anymore. Maybe you do because they're about to double or crash or they're...
Well, according to my inside sources, they're always about to double.
Well, something's happening where literally like the algorithm is about to half them or double them. I can't remember.
What's the name of it? Bitcoin went down to like pretty low, and now they're back up.
Yeah.
I don't know how any of it works, but they're doing well.
How it works is
my crypto friends are like really excited about it.
How it works is you just have to get enough people interested in buying it.
They had legislation pass that makes it legal, and like you can actually like exchanges can mess with them, and banks can get involved, and it's a whole thing.
And there is something about to happen with Bitcoin where like the algorithm's about to do something weird with it. It either splits it or halves it or dumps it or something happens.
Yeah, something.
But anyway, Ethereum's where all the cool kids are. That's where it's always been and where it's going to be in the future. They've all kind of settled on Ethereum. So Ethereum had the old proof of work model, which is the old one. That's the old-fashioned one that we learned about years ago.
Yeah,
where you have it's based on, of course, cryptography, and you have the blockchain. You try to do an entry up into the ledger, and then it's like, is this a valid entry? It sends a puzzle out to 1 billion different computers that are all running off these servers and graphics cards. And then the first one to solve the cryptograph gets a little bit of the currency and then validates the transaction, throws it onto the ledger. Everybody's yay. The problem, of course, with that is like it takes a tremendous amount of power, just almost from the outset, just wrong. It also makes it very slow.
That's the thing that I can't get past is how much energy it takes.
Well, I've got news for you, Jonathan. So Ethereum decided to switch to proof of stake, which is a different way of validating transactions. And the way that works is basically you send a transaction out to a bunch of these different computers, and these computers have a program installed that is a validation program that runs a certain set of things, and it runs them. And by having that validator program open, you're collecting some of the currency for helping validate all of these things. Now, the problem with proof of stake, according to a lot of people, there's a lot more opportunity for, it's not as rock solid. There's a lot more opportunity for funny business. If one person or if bad actors can get a hold of enough of the validators and change the code, oops.
Yeah, it's a hypothetical problem.
Right. So that will happen eventually if it gets popular enough. But they think they have things solved. But all that to say, it uses way less energy. Now, what it also does is I think the entry point for having one of these validators and machines to actually use it is it's like $80,000 to get this set up. So I'm not saying that this is the whole point of the projects on Web3, but it certainly seems like all the money's being sucked up to the people that already have it.
Do you feel
I would say
like Nvidia is behind this?
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I don't even
like all
think
these
they could
processing. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
The greatest fever dream. I'm gonna get my charger going. Okay, so that brings me to Lost Miners, Zach.
We're so close. I can see the word wonders.
Now let me tell you something.
Zach, do you want to go ahead and give us what you've learned so far while Steven's giving his charger?
There's a company who did a Web3 coin project that was kind of like a coin-based lottery system. That's what I've got.
For sports cards, primarily. And some Pikachus sometimes.
Sports words.
For words, moments that can maybe get you physical cards like Pikachus and Tom Brady's.
Mm-hmm. The words are what killed me.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
I mean,
it's not even bad art.
You can probably type those words into a prompt.
You don't get it, dude. See, I've done it. See, this is... I'm already in
it's not dude.
I'm in the
bro.
culture. You don't
get it, bro.
It's too complex for you, John.
It's too much for me.
Lost Miners of the Ether. So these are the final NFTs on the old proof of work Ethereum chain.
Not proof of stake.
Not proof of stake. So it made the thing, and it was called the Great Merge. Apparently, it's very technologically difficult, and they pulled it off.
The merging.
So these are important because they're a piece of history. They're the last NFTs on the old Ethereum. But then, when you know it, Wonders of the First are the first NFTs on the proof of stake Ethereum chain.
Literal first.
Okay.
Those are the first ones.
No.
That's why it's called Wonders of the First. 10,000 tokens, Zach. The very first, according to them, on the new Ethereum proof of
So the new
stake
Ethereum goes
chain.
up, and they meant 10,000 coins.
They had a program. They had a lot of programmatic stuff and algorithmic stuff where they could guarantee that they hit it as soon as it goes live.
So the people behind this have to really know what's going on.
They're deep into Web3.
With Ethereum.
Yeah.
Because there's no way you can be the first on Ethereum unless you're like both hip and with it.
Yes.
When it comes to Web3.
That's right.
So there's some serious stakeholders here.
Oh, yeah.
In the overall, like it may go as deep, again, this is speculating, but it could go so far as people very connected to the overall success of Ethereum.
Oh, Zach.
Are behind this project in a big way, right? Because
how did you reach the conclusion so soon, my friend?
Because there's no way you're the first 10,000 on the new thing.
It's not a random thing.
Yeah, okay.
No, Jeff's a true believer.
Tell me more. Yeah.
True believer.
You've now piqued my interest. I'm back in completely.
A little bit more about Jeff. Jeff and I had a conversation on our Discord, and it took a while to kind of become a conversation. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
you
for
talked
hours.
with the Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff French, yeah.
From the project.
He was very nice. Ramal came over, and Ramal's a big fan of ours. He's one of the artists or the narrative director in Wonders of the First.
So you were talking with Jeff?
Well, get this. So Ramal Smith is a fan of ours because he learned Star Wars LCG and Star Wars Destiny from us.
These are real people.
He's a real person. And he got brought in as the Wonders team because he had done, I think, some NFT stuff or some Web3 stuff. And so he's the narrative director of the Wonders of the First universe. Anyway, we had some conversations with him in the Discord because he wanted to answer some questions and whatnot. They're doing some outreach.
When was this happening?
In the little thread in our general chat. And so then he called Jeff in, and then Jeff stormed in and
into a thread on our Discord.
Yeah. Hey man, I'm making moves, dude.
Yeah.
When you're staring at the ball in the outfield, I'm swinging. I'm
when was this chronologically? This happened this weekend?
That was late yesterday.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, what I've learned about Jeff, I've learned a lot about Jeff. And Jeff and I are very different people.
When you say Jeff, I cannot help but think, yes, Jeff?
Yeah.
From the bear? Yes, Jeff.
We're just going to be fundamentally different people. Yeah. And Jeff, I think being in a community like the Web3 community, you have had to endure 4 years of intense skepticism.
Yep.
And everyone telling you can't do it, it'll never work, it won't work.
If you're a crypto person, it's been like 15 years.
Right.
20 years.
Now, one side of that equation says, yes, that is good, because this is society raising up and saying, this is all crazy. And we shouldn't just say, yeah, do whatever you want, because it's harming people and it's causing a lot of financial ruin.
Now, the thing that always, and I brought this up last time we talked about NFTs, but the thing that always inserts a seed of doubt in, because I'm with you, when you mention the word Web3 NFT, I'm immediately just like, pyramid scheme, scam, like this.
It's MLM stuff.
Yeah.
It's all this.
But I always think about that David Letterman clip where he's talking to Bill Gates. And Bill Gates is talking about someday on the internet you'll be able to listen to the baseball game.
Right.
And David Letterman makes a joke and he's like, that's called radio. Like, why would we need this thing? And Bill Gates sitting there, like, they laugh and like he moves on. But he's just bought into this idea of the internet.
Yeah. And that's what they live and breathe on. That is the whole argument for Web3. There's no real practical anything. Yeah, and this is what I have a problem with, is they either have a giant marketing problem because nobody can explain to me why any of this matters, or they don't have anything of value. So it's got to be one of those two things, and you got to fix one of those. And it's like it's all this theoretical maybe value solving problems that we don't currently have. If you told me, hey, this is a good example. I just kind of tee myself up here. Whenever somebody said, hey, have you heard of the internet? And I'm like, ha, whatever that is, nobody needs that. That's crazy stuff. And then like, hey, sit down. You can talk to somebody in a chat room about the Seattle Mariners. And I was like, oh, well, this is going to be important. There's nothing like that for Web3. Nothing. If you sit me down and say, hey, dude, phone apps, they're going to be the future. And I'm like, no, they're not. And then you're like, check out this app. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. So, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, well, I do think there's like, it's hard. One, I don't know, we could be getting old, but it's hard to see that in advance. I get what you're saying. Like I started using AIM and I didn't even think like this is going to be important. I thought this is important to me right now. I've yet to feel that with any Web3.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for that reason. It's like, just convince me why I need to own coins. Like,
yeah,
give me a reason that makes any, and I can't find an application, which is also part of what's interesting about this, whether or not this makes sense or not. But I remember like when the iPhone came out, I was like, I have to have this phone. I'm in college. I have no money. You can't, at the time, my family was on US Cellular because it was good out in Chelsea, Oklahoma. And you could only get it on, I think it was AT&T at first. And I was like, Dad, we've got to switch to AT&T because I've got to get an iPhone. And he was like, no, that doesn't make any sense. And then I was looking at like just switching by myself and paying, it was ludicrous back then, to get the iPhone because I was just so obsessed. So like he's the old guy in the story being like, your phone works fine. You don't need this new thing. But with the iPhone, I could immediately be like, here's the things I can do with it immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. And that hasn't happened yet. And I think the other thing is like, and I'm sure there was a lot of this in the early internet. That was a little bit before my time, but the other piece of this is like Bill Gates wasn't telling Dave, and if you invest in this thing that has no value right now, it will be valuable someday. Or like he's not saying like buy a computer now because it's going to be great one day and you're going to make a ton of money. And like that is everywhere in this world.
Yeah, he's specifically talking about function.
Yeah.
Like imagine if you could listen to any baseball game ever.
Right.
On your browser, and it doesn't have to be happening right now, and you don't have to have radio signal, and you don't have to do whatever. And it's like he's talking about utility.
Yeah.
Immediately talking about utility.
Yeah, and it's immediately appreciable.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Wonders of the First, they stake it out on the first 10,000 blank tokens on the proof of stake post-merge Ethereum chain. Okay. So now what do you
mostly
do?
Following.
So this is kind of like when the internet first launches, you buy 10,000 URLs, and then you're like, what am I gonna do with these? And so according to Jeff's, now I was gonna tell you, what Jeff has told me about himself is that he has a ton of money. He made all of his money working up some fancy ad programs that he licensed to big businesses to better target ads to people. And he's done angel investing. And so like, he's like that guy in the tech world that is like, you know, he's the wheeler and dealer kind of type. So he thinks, I just got to be there. This is a historic moment. I'm getting these 10,000. And then basically says, okay, we've got the 10,000. What are we going to do with them? We got to do something big with them. We got to do something exciting, fancy, etc. And so they eventually come up with, well, what if we created this vast universe across these 10,000 tokens, and then we gave them away to people, and then they could help, if they had the token, they could maybe like contribute to the lore, the IP of this universe. So like you have the token for this character, maybe you can write stories and maybe you can, generate, do all the work.
You can work for us.
Yes, exactly, but for free. So there's that piece of it. And then it turned into kind of like, well, what if we also, and this is probably about at the same time, I don't know where this, but what if this was an actual card game? What if these characters appeared on physical cards? Because we've seen, some good Kickstarters come through. What if we put out a card game with these characters, and then if you have the NFT for one of the characters, it's like an artist proof, and like maybe it gives you IP rights to that character.
So like I could own Pikachu.
You could own the IP rights shared with the company.
So they can still use it in their game.
Yeah, and anything else they want. But you can also do that.
We both get to do it.
We both get to do it.
Tag team.
So the common example is, what if you had the one-of-one Pikachu NFT, and then Pikachu got really popular because people, loved the IP, and then you made Pikachu Nuggets the store, and you sold chicken nuggets that look like Pikachu. That's probably not a great idea.
To try to give it some
not a good idea there.
Anchor. It's kind of like what Sorcery is doing with its artist, where the artists draw the picture for him, and then the artists retain the rights to print play mats and shirts and stuff, but the game retains the rights to print it as a card.
Yeah, true. So the artist maintains the rights to the IP.
Gets the physical art,
right?
That they can either keep or sell or do whatever.
But here, the NFT holder is filling in the artist position.
Yeah,
for that arrangement.
That's a really good point. So they could like sell art of their NFT. I don't know if they get the high resolution of it or how all that works.
Okay.
So that's the start of this whole thing, Zach. And that was in December of last year.
No.
Yeah.
So we went from that to game in 5 months.
So I don't know when Brian comes in, but about that time, as far as I understand it, and Jeff was basically agreeing with this on the Discord, and maybe I missed some of this, but so it's like, we're going to do a game. They bring Brian in. They spin out Wonders LLC. They hire a digital art team that uses generative AI to do all of their work. And they start scaling up, and they invest all this money, and they make a game. And it's called Wonders of the First. And Brian is in charge of the design. He's the magic developer. And then there's all these NFTs. Now, they released 5,000 of the NFTs that had the world building and art done by that art team. And they are talking about using generative AI as mainly the bulk middle of the process. So they maybe have a sketch or an idea. They'll let the AI take it to 90%, and then they finish the 10% with the human hand in whatever form that takes. But they said, if we're going to do 10,000 universe cards, we got it. How can we do it fast? The only way we can do it is artificially. Mm-hmm. So we can't do all this by hand. It would take too long. So we have to bring in the AI and utilize it to tell stories. They also are using AI in their naming conventions and in creating and generating some of these characters. That is through a couple of Discord posts that were along the way, using AI to generate some of the story and the lore. And I think Ramal's using some AI to kind of like help generate some ideas. So there's AI infused throughout the project on purpose. Because if you're coming from Web3, like, this is not controversial at all. This is the future, baby.
This is expected.
Yeah. So all of that happens, and then the next move for Blokpax here is, hey, everybody who's engaging with our NFT ecosystem, we're about to engage on a physical level, and we're going to make the most coveted card game, the most coveted CCGs that there is. Because remember Jeff is a baseball card collector, Pokemon card. I don't think he's much of a player at all. He's just collect, sell, buy, collect, sell, buy. Mm-hmm. So he's coming in saying, we're never gonna reprint stuff. We're gonna do one of ones. We're gonna do really rare stuff. We're gonna make it a really crazy collectible experience, because he comes from a world where collectability is of itself somehow enough. Like, you don't play with the NFTs, you just buy them.
I mean, baseball card collectors, sports card collectors is the same thing. Okay. So then Wonders of the First gets announced. Mm-hmm. It's a Kickstarter project.
Yeah.
And how is that actually being utilized? Well,
so all the Blokpax and Wonders Discords are getting built up to go back this day one. So like, this is a whole.
So this is where the audience comes from.
This is go do this. This is just another drop.
Yeah. It's like, you believe in this technology and this future and this, economic prosperity. we're doing a physical TCG that integrates all this stuff. You should check it out.
Mm-hmm.
They hop in. Now we're at $1.5 million.
That's it. I mean, that's essentially it.
And so now we're the fungible card
now the
game
TCG players are like
now talking about it because it's like a Kickstarter project doesn't just hit 1.5 million.
Yeah,
on accident.
And then we're saying
that's their avenue to make money, right? That's how they're going to get it to go big. Is they do the wonders of the first. You have your AI art, you have your characters in your AI art. People play the game, people love it. They spin that into TV shows and movies, and spin up the IP with the card game as the basis.
Right, and then if you're holding that NFT that gives you the IP rights, well, now suddenly that has value. Yeah, and they're releasing in the packs themselves. Some of those NFTs that they already released did not get IP rights assigned, so they are unclaimed, and those are going to be in the packs themselves. You pull one of those cards, you gain the character proof rights.
So you open the card, you gain the rights to Pikachu.
Yeah.
Scan the thing in, you own the coin.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the setup.
Yeah. IP rights is interesting to me because I don't even know. Like, if I set one base Pokemon, got the IP rights to Pikachu, a lot of questions come up. Mm-hmm. What all can I do, can't do? Can they kill the character in the game or in the story? Mm-hmm. Can they change, suddenly they depict the character I own doing something horrendous? Like,
well, honestly, Zach, being honest, as a true outside observer, none of this stuff ever has details. All of my Web3 research, not just Blokpax, all of these companies, it's about ideas. It's about potential. It's about the future. How it works, we'll figure that out when we get there.
Yeah, because I remembered you listening to a video that was kind of explaining it. And I kept thinking the whole time, like, these are sort of extreme, outlandish examples. I'm a little surprised they didn't have this is actually implemented, here's how it would work. Mm-hmm. Like, this person we know, we gave this thing, they now have the rights. They have done this. This is what they're doing with it actively to show. But it's like, hypothetically, I heard something about a car wash and the nuggets.
Yeah.
And it's like, you could put Pikachu on your car wash, and then if Pikachu gets popular, like, your car wash is going to be really successful. And it's like,
I'm a human in the real world.
Yeah, it's like, well, I'm not going to, I mean, if I already had a car wash, maybe, but even then, it's like, it's this weird, it's like, yeah, Pikachu became a big deal. Mm-hmm. But part of it was because the Pokemon company had that IP and built that IP. Mm-hmm. And was incentivized to build that IP. But if we're sharing, it's like, are they expecting the audience to go build the IP? And then even then it's weird because it's like, I own this one character, so I can't like write a novel in this world and have it published, and like I can't do all the things the Pokemon company did to make Pokemon go crazy.
Apparently, if you work with the other IP holders you can work with their stuff too, and so there can be kind of a collaborative thing.
But like, it's so
no, please, yes. Yes, please.
Hypothetically, yeah, sure.
So what?
You can't. It's so hard to do anything.
Oh, I know.
Let alone like work with the other 9 people that own this thing to get a deal with Netflix to do an anime on my characters, and then now I'm on a 9th of it, and like,
yeah. But all of this that is just ammo. So this is just an example of people saying that we'll never succeed. We got to push through that. Look at all these doubters. Look at all these skeptics.
I mean, this is
if you believe in Ethereum, if you believe in the game, you believe in first wonders. This is what we've got to overcome. This is the headwinds. These are the gatekeepers in the industry trying to keep us out. So this is the narrative that they're going to spin about any resistance they get about people not understanding AI art and
I'm not.
These kinds
I'm not
of
trying to dunk. I would just like to get it.
Nobody's trying to dunk on anybody. We just don't understand because it doesn't really make sense.
So how can we, just so I have a grip on the whole conversation. Mm-hmm. So then what is SolForge doing?
Oh, SolForge. So what SolForge is doing.
So SolForge Fusion, originally a digital app like a decade plus ago.
Yeah.
That ends. Then they become keyforge doing the unique deck game thing.
Yeah.
Then they spin out and they do a physical thing, which we supported. And then we ended our subscription officially. They were going back to Kickstarter and they were doing the digital app. They recently launched their digital platform.
Yeah.
So you have physical decks, you scan the code, you own it physically and digitally. You can use those in the app, but now in the app, they're digital only decks. And then something else happened.
Yes, it sure did. I'm glad you asked. So John, send me to the house here.
Zoom.
There are 3 pillars of SolForge Fusion according to this white paper. The first pillar is tabletop. This is the old-fashioned, what we know to be games. Then there's the web and mobile, and this is where you scan the deck in, and then you can play web and mobile.
So Web 2.
Yeah, Web 2, which is not Web 3. Web 2 is boring stuff that
Boring
we do
old
every
Web
day.
2.
Yeah. It's like our website is Web 2. E-commerce is Web 2. It's all just a waste of time. Also, the Web 3 guys really just dunk on Web 2 all the time.
Yeah, of course.
All the this is a real statement, non-red-pilled Web 2 users came out of a certain person's mouth who is involved in that Kickstarter. Pillar 2, Web 2 and mobile. So this is what we expected. So they built the app, and you could scan your decks and play in the app.
Yeah, and I thought, at one point, I thought this, to have a deck digitally, you also had to have it physically.
Yeah, this is kind of where that was at the time.
Yeah, but then I know there was like an online tournament, and then
they just
if
gave
you
up.
did it well enough, you could keep the digital deck around, and then there's potentiality that someday you could print the digital decks that you own.
So they're already doing great in the Web3 world because they're talking about something that isn't actually happening yet.
Yeah.
The roguelike campaign mode is also probably why you're here. So they're trying to get on the roguelike craze. You take your SolForge deck, you upgrade it as you lose, and then you play again, and you get it better and you lose. And that's great. That would be awesome.
Oh, interesting.
I hope it works. And then you have Web3, of course. Really, this kind of covers it. Mint 1 of 1 NFTs from physical decks and through rare unlocks. So you have your physical deck, you NFT it.
I mint a coin of it.
You mint it.
So then presumably I could transfer, sort of like alter digital ownership.
That's right.
Of this deck.
Yeah.
I transfer to you. You can suddenly use it. If someday you can actually print things that you own, just like altered, you could have 10 copies of the same deck out in the world, but only one person owns the rights to use it in like tournaments and stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know if you just have the physical deck, I think that is a separate. They probably, if you are in a digital tournament, you probably just have to have the NFT. And if you're in a physical tournament, you have to have the physical deck. And if those two things are not belonging to the same person, I think they're fine with that.
Gotcha. Because I know with altered, it was like you have to register for the tournament, and it has to be cards that you own.
Yeah.
Or have borrowed. Yeah. To do it.
So it gives players true ownership and upside in the game.
What? Okay.
It gives players true ownership and upside in the game.
So you own an NFT and now you own the game?
No. Well, yes, that is actually a piece of this, but I don't know if that's what they're saying or not. But one of the things that the NFTs are really into, the NFT folks, is that you can it's considered true ownership because there is no third party validating whether or not you own something. So if I go down to the government records office and I look up the deed to my house, it's logged. Stephen Woolley owns this land.
Yeah, or your vehicle.
But if that organization decided to put somebody else's name on there, and I had my physical deed and they had theirs, then now we have a conflict, and oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But that's not the ledger. The NFT blockchain ledger cannot have a conflict because it's a one-to-one relationship between the thing that you have and the ledger.
That's what you mean by true ownership.
Yeah. So once you put it on the thing, you're the only owner that it can ever have. And the blockchain, of course, can never fail. And that's, up for debate whether or not that's true. But the thinking is the blockchain will never fail. It'll never get hacked or anything. And so it will be a perfect record of all transactions till the end of time.
It reminds me of, I remember forever, it was like, don't put it on the internet. Internet's forever. Mm-hmm. And so much of my early internet is not forever.
Yeah, true. My MySpace is long gone.
So we think. Tom's still out there.
My Zanga. And then
NFTs, your Zanga. I remember.
It's still there.
I was a regular reader.
Really? Yeah, it's still there. NFTs can be used in-game and give special rewards from events. And so I think, if you have the digital token of a deck and you win an event with the deck, and then maybe they take the digital avatar that you have and they give it a flame because you won. And now every time you play the deck, your avatar has a flame on it. They could mess with the digital nature of these cards, right? But the other thing here is that stakeholders of the SFG token, which are owners of high-ranked NFT decks and active players. So
you level up a deck and your NFT gets upgraded. Now you're in like tier 1.
Then you get an SFG token. Or if you just play a lot, you also maybe get an SFG token. And then if you have that, you'll have a voice in the long-term governance and development of SolForge Fusion. which is like the DAO concept of now you have a stake in the organization and you can vote on whether we should do this update or this feature or that feature. So, which is seen as a very big advantage because I don't want to say it because nobody has a vision anymore, Zach.
Well, I was going to say it's basically decentralizing or democratizing ownership and decision making. For me, it's just everything about this is so antithetical to my existence. And I say that as nicely as possible. Okay. But the reality of, like we already talked about earlier, I'm a fungible person. I like fungible things.
You are fungible. Actually, you're non-fungible. You're one of a kind. You can't be replicated, boy.
Not yet.
But you enjoy fungible things.
I enjoy fungible things. Physical, real, tangible.
There's like 100 tunics out there.
It doesn't. It's a real thing. I don't know. There's only one of this coffee cup, but I enjoy that it's a real coffee cup.
Well, real, in what sense? It's physical, sure.
It has.
Is it any more real than what's on the digital screen there?
It is by definition. Anyways, so there's that piece of it where it's like digital ownership and stuff doesn't spark joy for me or excite me or have my interest. Secondarily, like in some cases, like with original SolForge, original SolForge Fusion, the ability to scan my decks in and have a digital collection and see all my stuff, and then maybe someday use that in an app where I can play, and it's like one for one. I can practice my physical decks, etc. I think that's appealing to me.
Yeah.
But the second piece, which is this like kind of democratizing / decentralizing of ownership of things, I get the appeal of crowd, like a group-based collaborative ownership situation of certain things. But when it comes to these games, for me, I view the creation of games very much as an art form, from top to bottom. The actual creating the game, designing it, developing it, even just getting the game into people's hands is a skill and like something that is something I value.
So, it's something that humans do.
Yeah. So if you have a company making a game or a publisher or a group of people, but now you suddenly have 100 people that own a part of it also contribute to this decision.
But they don't actually own a part of it. They have a voting share that you can honor or not honor. They're not holding stock. They don't have any upside if you succeed. None of that stuff.
It's just so opposite of what I like. Perfect example. Every partner we work with currently is kind of the opposite of this.
Yeah, right.
Which is like, you talk to Eric in Sorcery and like he has a distinct vision of what he's wanting to create and people are loving it. Earthborne, alphaclash. Just go down the list.
Can you imagine if Sorcery had like 100 people deciding what they should do? It would never work.
Yeah. And like the other thing that pains me about this is like it reminds me of Altered, where I can hypothetically understand some of the benefits, but also it's sort of this who's this for and what problem are we actually solving? And is it actually a problem? So here with this kind of a thing, it's like, this is just a company with shares.
Right.
Like we have a vehicle for a large group of people to own something, benefit from it, and have decision rights relating to it.
Right. Benefiting from it is the key though.
But like this is, and that's the whole Web3 thing. Like one of the things about crypto that was always challenging for me, I could conceptually understand a digital currency having value, like why that we already have a digital currency. We have the United, but like having a neutral, non country specific, even specifically unregulated. Unfortunately, like a lot of the value of that to me is unregulated. So the moment they were like, oh, it's going to be regulated, this will be mainstream, it's losing a lot of the would-be appeal of this. But all that to say, I can kind of almost think about getting there. And I get that like an unregulated, it's not shares of stock, it's not a company. You have weird things where like shareholders from different countries, like if you're an LLC, like it works in a weird way and that's more official and it's paperwork. And so this is really easy. Anyone can hop on, have a wallet, buy some coins or earn this thing. But it's just really, it's hard for me to get there where I'm actually fundamentally understanding why.
Yeah.
Outside of... we're gamifying this thing. If you participate a lot, you'll get this coin. If you get this coin, you get a vote and have these rights.
And maybe the votes are going to be like whatever. Maybe it's like, do we want to release the cloak or the boots? vote. Like maybe it
like
has
a
nothing
story
to do with the
moment or
long-term
whatever.
direction. Yeah.
I don't know. It's a lot.
Well, let me tell you. I'll tell you from somebody who has looked into this a lot. There are two perspectives on this. If you're a Web3 person, you just don't get it. It's too complex, or you haven't.
That's what they
looked
would
at
say to me.
Yeah, you just don't get it. Okay.
Okay.
Or if you're not a Web3 person and you're like me, I would tell you, yes, what you're experiencing is totally normal and accurate. And the moment that we as people keep trying to second guess ourselves about what we actually know deep down is when we get bamboozled. Because that's always how it happens. You have the feeling and you're like, I don't know. And then the guy's like, well, and then you're like, well, maybe. And then it's like, well, you could make, and it's like, well, so I could maybe double my money. And then it's like, well, and then my front line can be this. It's like, well, and it's like, okay, I'm in. And then like a month later, you're like, I got taken again, you know?
My ape.
Exactly.
I think the thing to me though is like, and it may be simpler than that in terms of there's currently just no utility that I understand or desire about it.
Right.
So if you're looking for a way to make money, I think you can get there very quickly, actually.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, here's these digital assets that you can own that might be like someone might pay you a lot for that NFT thing, and other people are going to want it. And like, people are behind the curve, but like, I'm not buying any of these things to make money.
There's no,
like, I'm not buying SolForge decks to make money. Even we talk about this too with organized play and pricing and stuff. And like Fab's big organized play, $1.5 million. Like, winning is fun, and I'll win money all day long and be fine with it. But like, I'm not competing and practicing. Like, the EV on my time spent to the money I've won in Fab is like horrible.
right.
Because that's not what, like, I'm there to compete with people and be like, test with people and travel to tournaments and to compete. So if it would almost be like if you're pitching organized play and it's like, look at how much money you can win. It's like, well, that's irrelevant to me if I don't enjoy the game and want to compete at it.
Yeah.
Similar here, where it's like ways to own part of the game, and
It's just not for us.
if the utility is the money making side, I'm going to be blind to that naturally.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I don't get
And
that.
like the Web3 world is unquestionably has been full of scams.
Yeah.
Tons. I mean, it's hard to point at anything that isn't. There's a lot of things that aren't intentionally scams, but it's hard to point to anything that has actually generated a lot of value for people that bought in. Like, you could say, yes, you sold it for a higher price to some other sucker, but in terms of where the value actually ended up, you got to the awesome conference and somehow it was worth the millions you spent on it. I don't know of any project you can point to, even any of those games. I did a whole rundown of all the big games that were supposed to be all the big thing, and they were, taking people out of poverty in Thailand and all this. It's all gone. It all crashed, and none of it worked.
Well, and I think it's the thing you hit on there is important value. It's like, is value? There are a lot of people that made a lot of money off the apes, but the value that owning an ape offered someone that was not just like monetary investment value that someone else bought and you made money. Like, someone lost money in this exchange.
They have to.
Yeah. And that is a form of value, but there's a utility value that I've been pointing towards, which is like, what's the utility value of owning an ape? And I don't know if any of those clubs even ever opened.
No, it's like kind of embarrassing what happened.
So that's where, even with this stuff, like with Altered, it's like, I understand actually how the Altered functions. I could
There's actually utility there.
I could follow that. I just question whether or not the utility they're offering is utility that is actually useful or needed or necessary or productive at all.
Yeah, at least it's utility.
And we'll find out. But at least with Altered, it was like, okay, I get it. I have digital ownership and I can print as many physical cards as I want.
Yeah.
But I got it.
The takeaway I get from the culture, and this is my final piece on Web3, and then we'll get into AI art and we'll bring Andrew in. But the thing that I've taken away from the culture, having been just like doing a really deep dive this weekend, is that I think the value equation is tied explicitly to the amount of money that one can make. Yeah. I think that is the same thing. The future in their minds is, if something's valuable, it's worth money. That's it. So regardless of the utility, if somebody's willing to pay for it, it has value. And that's the end of the conversation. And so there's that paired with, and this is what MLMs do really well too, is this, we are so starved for actual community because of the way that the digital transformation has isolated all of us so much. We're so starved for community that we will swallow a lot of stuff that we know is crazy just so that we have people to talk to and to feel a part of something. And so you get involved in these discords and you dip your toe in and everyone's really nice and it's GM, good morning every day. And you have something to look forward to when you check your phone and there's a piece of it. And then it's like, yeah, and if you want to be a part of this, buy this pack and then buy this avatar. And then it's like, oh, well, I know that there's no real use for this, but like, I want to keep hanging out with these people. It's QAnon, it's everything else. I need a community. And if this is what it takes to be a part of one, I'll keep along as long as it's there. And then the moment that I actually let that realization sink in that I've been wasting so much money and time, it all becomes very depressing.
Because that's sunk cost. But I think that's one of the most important points is that these communities, once you get into the inner circle, are super welcoming. And
they have to be.
They have to.
Otherwise, they can't make money off
That's
of
true. But then it's like there are so many lonely people, and especially men, I think, that are looking for a community and a place to belong and all this stuff we've talked about as that Tabletop can help to solve.
Yeah.
And one of the places they find themselves in is these Web3 communities. And again, that's what just like you said. And I think that's super important for why these are so popular. Absolutely.
And the other piece of that too, and this is kind of the terrible pairing in my and I've seen a lot of actual people evaluating this with research and stuff, so I feel comfortable saying it, but there's also, as far as financial hopelessness, that also is up, right? So you feel like you can't keep up, and prices go up, and everybody else is succeeding over here, and you see this guy who just made 100,000, your friend Matt, on these NFTs, and you think, why not take a shot? Because what I'm doing now isn't going to get me anywhere. Why not take a shot? You lose another $500,000. You're worse off than you were, and there you go, right? And that also is behind so much of this in my mind, having looked at all these different communities. So it's interesting, and it's different.
Which one?
All right. So next up, is there any comments, Jonathan, worth talking about?
Oh, we couldn't even pause.
Just a million. Millions of comments. Love it. Hey, like the video, subscribe.
Smash the like button.
Smash the like button. Buy a pack. Our new next drop. Actually, our next drop is coming tomorrow. Warlord CCG is going live on the Kickstarter. They are a wonderful group of people. The two people that we did the documentary over, Josh and Woodrow, are launching that project. If you haven't seen the documentary, please check that out.
Yes, please.
It's beautiful. Something that I'm really proud of that Jonathan has just crushed. And it's a piece of content, a type that I would like to do more of, and that Jonathan would like to do more of.
Many more already in the queue.
Yeah, for sure. But these are
more in the old brain space.
These are two guys that are launching a TCG from a place of absolute passion, from a place of desiring to connect people physically with one another.
Very fungible.
Fungible, very much like they're reprinting cards from the old stuff, from the old collection. It's an incredible game, a great system, and they're looking to really bring it back, and they just love it so much, and it's so obvious that they love it. And when people out there love something as much as they do, and they want to share it with others, that is where magic happens in my mind. So, and they're doing a lot of traditional art as well in Warlord. Traditional, some digital, and a lot of traditional. So moving on. Now, the other thing about Sworn is the first thing. And now here's Jonathan. Can I get a read on this?
Okay.
Can you take me to the house again? Now yes. Jeff told me.
Screen, I think.
Jeff told me we were very upfront, and we told everybody about AI and all this kind of stuff. They really, not really. And this is what I told him. If you want to do this, be upfront and say we are from the Web3 space. We had these 10,000 tokens. We decided to do this incredible TCG product that doesn't have anything to do with the NFTs if you don't want to touch that part of it. But we got a magic designer in, and we wanted to make such an expansive universe that we felt like we needed to use these incredible AI artists that we have known throughout our lives. They do wonderful work. They finish it with the human touch, so it's all copyrightable, etc. And we think this is the only way we could produce a product this incredible was to use our generative AI capabilities. And we believe this is the future of art. We hope you do too. Now that's being upfront about AI. Putting it at the freaking bottom of your Kickstarter after all of your timelines and join the community. Now we have use of AI that you have to include per Kickstarter's terms. It's the very bottom thing. It's I just don't buy the argument that we were so upfront about AI and all of this kind of stuff, because I think, and call me a skeptic, I think that the marketing folks at Wonders knew that if any Web3 stuff is mentioned and if any AI stuff is up front, the tabletop audience is going to hate it. And so they hide it, and then we find it, and then it becomes the topic. So by not leaning in, really from the very beginning, I think you allow all of these conspiracy theories to function.
The video up top doesn't mention AI art.
Doesn't mention AI. It doesn't have any gameplay videos. The gameplay video that they provided is literally just shots of people playing the game at a table, but not actually showing the game being played.
I did see someone in the chat saying they have played it.
Yes, they have print and play decks. That's the thing, is like the launch just opened them up for all the worst parts of the skepticism to be validated.
Well, I remember the first time I engaged with the alphaclash Kickstarter, the first one, they were light on gameplay, heavy on collectability. Yeah. And I was like, oh, here's another. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I met Ridge in person that I was like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, you really
like real people who are really passionate about what they're doing.
Like, it seems like a really fascinating game.
Yeah.
That's the shame of it, is like...
Yeah, the human part of this is that these are real people really creating something they really care about.
Yeah.
They just land out, like on the Venn diagram.
Oh, that's Andrew. I was wondering where the birds were coming from.
I hear him laughing now. They land in the segment of Web3 is the future. We believe in Web3. We're going to integrate that. We're not afraid of that. Mm-hmm. To your point, AI being at the very bottom, I mean, it's still there. Kickstarter makes them do it. Uh-huh. Perhaps they could. I haven't dove too as far as you've gone.
Yeah.
But that is, I could understand someone having that perspective.
Yeah.
I don't understand it generally, but you know.
And Jeff asked my opinion on the Kickstarter. I gave it to him, and he was pretty receptive to it. And so it's like I said, we're just going to come on very different sides of a lot of these debates, but I'm at least glad that we could talk and come to some conclusions in a reasonable way.
And I think if you're watching this and you're going to kickstart a card game, I would just highly recommend featuring gameplay.
Yeah.
Like, just you need to have gameplay. Otherwise, it's no matter, even if you didn't have the AI and the NFT and all that stuff going on here, alphaclash had none of that. Mm-hmm. And part of me was like, these look like 90s superhero cards. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Then the other part of me was like, I can't find any gameplay. Mm-hmm. This must be
big red flag.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us actually play these games. That's the crazy thing about this. I mean, a lot of us don't, but a lot of us do, and there's this weird relationship that we can never get. So AI art, here's what we're going to talk about, and we're going to bring Andrew in here. This is the process of using AI tools like Midjourney, which is what they use, to make art. And what generally happens with tools like this is they are run by text prompts. A lot of times they start with a seed piece of artwork. That can be an actual sketch that you've done, or it can be something you pull off the web. And then they need like textural kind of additional artwork to kind of give the vibe of the style that they're going for. And what Midjourney has done is gone all over the internet and looked at every piece of art that's available in the universe. And it has integrated all of the styles and concepts and what is a human and what is a bear, and it's machine learning, and it's all of that kind of stuff. And so then you use text prompts from there to say, I want to see a Viking in a horned helmet riding a mastodon into battle with a dark background behind fog in the foreground and trumpets and volcanoes. Yeah.
So I could do this art.
Well, so it comes in, and it's usually not great, and then you refine it and you say, make this different, or make him look more aggressive, or make him look...
Am I right in saying that it is studying other AI art and also art generally?
It's studying everything on the internet.
It's like, what's a rhino?
Everything on the internet.
Let me look at all the rhino art that's ever been done. Yeah. Now we need to put a rhino into this thing.
And kind of the key here is it's looking at a lot of art that's copyrighted, right? That artists have created.
Yeah.
And then it's learning from all artists instantly.
Because I remember us talking about, like, you know, if Liz Danforth had AI study all of her art.
That's Margaret. I think that was the best.
Margaret wanted to do that. Yeah.
I think because there are AI tools that you can use, and it's kind of a fuzzy line. But I think that was interesting.
To study all of her art, and then it was like, produce a piece of art of Steven. Mm-hmm. It could make art in her style using only her stuff. And if she was using that and she was then finishing it or changing it or whatever, it's different than...
Technically it's different.
Study all art ever.
It might be different.
It feels different.
It feels different. Yeah,
like
it
at least
feels
it's
different.
me telling a robot to study my stuff and make stuff that I would maybe make. Similarly, if you had an AI listen to you on stream for all of our streams ever, and then you were like, "Hey, write an email to Jonathan about this topic, and this is the TLDR," and then reviewed it and sent it, is different than robot study all the people that have ever taught. Anyways,
yeah.
I don't know. We can get into that with Andrew.
But it spits out, usually the first text prompt, it spits out a bunch of different like drafts, and you choose one of them, and then you work on that more with text prompts, and then at the end you take that and you like kind of fix the artifacts, and maybe you go in Photoshop and you touch it up, and there's your piece. So that's what you got. Jonathan, you ready to bring in Mr. Navaro, coming straight from Costa Rica?
There he is.
Look at this beautiful man. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Zach.
Man, look at this guy. Man, you did something right along the way, didn't you?
This is not an AI background.
Perhaps this is not. No, this is a real life, totally fungible background. I don't even know what that means anymore. Like I've heard the word fungible so much in the last hour. I thought I knew maybe what fungible meant, but I now I don't feel like I really even know anymore.
I think it basically
Do you
means.
want to ask the robots?
I think it basically means reproducible, right? So is it a one of one that can never be produced again, or can it be reproduced? That's kind of the question.
So the definition of fungible is replaceable by another identical item, mutually interchangeable.
Yeah. So if I have like 5 copies of the same card, those are fungible. Whereas if I have a one of one signed, that is seemingly non-fungible. I think that's the idea.
Yeah.
Andrew, do you have any thoughts? Have you been listening to the stream?
Yes. I started like full of energy and verve, and then like slowly worn down over time as I'm listening to you guys talk about this topic. It's so exhausting, even to just listen to. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be like steeped in this day in and day out, and this to be like the thing you were into.
Yeah.
I don't even know how you do. How does one even do that? I don't know.
What do you think? What's exhausting about it?
It all seems like a colossal waste of time.
Wow.
From your lips to God's ears. Man.
What are you even doing, man? Like, you don't need to commoditize everything. You don't need to monetize every single thing. I don't need a token to say I was at this thing. Who cares? Who cares? And if you do care, why do you care? Like, really look inside and do something about your life.
End of conversation.
What is the like? Can you? I've struggled with this to kind of try to define. There's almost something indefinable. This kind of this human, kind of spiritual element of like, why are we here? What does existence even mean for us to tackle these kinds of issues? Is there is there a deeper thread to why it makes you feel that way? Like, is it just that people should be doing things differently? For what reason? Like, why spend your time doing what? What should you be doing?
Yeah, well, I think there is a bit of a problem with that these days, where people just don't know what to do, because you're just like, especially, having kids and then hearing them talk to their friends and seeing kind of like the struggles that they have, just trying to figure out like what to even do with their day. It's like, I feel like sometimes they just feel like all they can do is like sit there and just scroll TikToks on their phone and do that until it's time to go to bed, and then wake up and do it again. And if that's your existence and that's all you're really presented with, then like what are you doing? What is the point? And I do think there's something of a crisis. What the cause of it is, I have no clue. But I feel like the symptoms of it are everywhere. Where I feel like there is just kind of I don't know, like a lack of general respect for human life. And I think when you commoditize things, like when everything to you is just an equation about how to make the most money, and you don't care about humans at all, then it's really, really easy to make decisions like, oh yeah, hey, we're going to go with AI art because it's cheap and it's easy. And if all you want is a pretty picture, sure, it can do that. I agree with you. It feels weird to me. Like something about AI art just feels off. Mm-hmm. And it's a difficult thing it's something I can't I can't quantify in any kind of like scientific way. It's just something that I feel, right? When I look at it, it doesn't hit me. It kind of hits me off to the side or something. Like it never hits me in the heart. It always hits me like, oh, that's interesting. A computer did that. How about that? You know?
Do you
interesting.
We've gone down that path before, but do you think, like, I think about virtual reality, and I have a fundamental hope that it will never, for whatever reason, that thing you just mentioned, when you see AR, it just feels off. Sort of like virtual reality is like, it feels off, like it's not real. If we cross that threshold, though, where we don't feel that way anymore, like you put, the plugs into your brain, or you put on the headset, and I'm at the table with you, and it feels just as real as being at the table with you. Do you think that's possible? Same with AR. Like, can AI art get to the point where you see it and it doesn't feel off? And
I suppose it's possible, in a world of infinite possibilities, in a world where, a lot of the things we're even talking about right now, like, wouldn't have seemed possible to us, 20, 30 years ago.
What do you think happens then?
Well, again, I feel like there's an over emphasis on one's intellect in your mind. Like, if you're only focused on like your sensory receptors and your brain and how it processes information, then sure, I think you could probably like hook enough things up to your brain to make it seem like your environment is a reality, even though you might be in a pod somewhere or like a tank of goo. I think that seems totally possible to me, but I do think there's a part of that though that is just lacking, and I think that's the part of me that believes that we are more than just our intellect. We're more than just our brain. We're more than just the neurons and things firing in our head. And that's the thing that connects us on a level and is responsible for a lot of the things that when we connect with humans face to face, where you can feel those things. And I feel like there's been like some scientific attempts to try to describe like why these things happen. Oh, you have this electromagnetic field around you, and like you're expending like these particles, and maybe that's all true, but I do think that there's a significant portion of the human experience that has nothing to do with all of your senses or your brain. And I feel like if one were to be connected in that way, if you and I, Zach, were in our goo pods on other sides of the world, and we were connecting in this virtual space that looks like reality, I think there would be a part of us that would know we weren't actually there. Yeah. That there would be something that was lacking. Mm-hmm. And maybe over time, if the technology gets there, it can also connect us on that level. But I think we can already connect on that level. We don't need technology to do that, Yeah. And this is like, I think part of like this road we're on with technology and AI. The way they talk about AI is like, oh, it's this inevitable thing. Oh, you got to get on board. You're going to get left behind. Blah 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 blah. There's nothing inevitable about it. If we don't support it, it won't happen. If you don't spend money on it, it won't happen. Like I'm seriously considering dumping my Adobe Creative Cloud stuff because they're constantly like shoving this AI tool stuff in my face, and I have no interest in it. And I could just sit in the Adobe ecosystem, which I've been irritated with for years anyway.
Oh, you're an Adobe user.
Yeah,
all of us.
Exactly. I think that's just everyone knows. Anyone who uses Adobe knows exactly what I mean.
Right.
But I've never it's just something I've been using, since the late 90s. So I'm very comfortable with it. I use the current version of Creative Cloud like I used Adobe Photoshop 2 or 4 or whatever it was. 6 maybe was my first one. I don't remember. But anyway, I've been considering just getting out of that because I just don't want to. I don't want to support it. To me, it's not a worthwhile endeavor. Like, It's just another layer of separation between us and the thing that we do. Like, ask how that worked out for the auto industry. How did that work out for our auto industry when we started to automate all that stuff? Sure, we can make cars faster, but it was bad. Like, It was bad. But but AI can be applied to like pretty much every facet of human life. So we're gonna like remove the human element from every facet of human life. What will that do to us? I think there's been enough speculative fiction on this subject where we might be able to figure it out, because there's so much of this speculative fiction that has come true. I really don't know why, we have these like cautionary tales and we just like, you know what, that's fine. Let's just do that. Like, that sounds fine. iRobot, that sounds good. Let's do that. That's awesome.
It's strange to me because, especially when we get into the AI art, like in my mind, uses of AI or technology, it's like replace the things that people don't enjoy or want to be doing.
Yeah.
And like with art or game creation or game testing or any of this, the story writing, it's like, shouldn't this, like, of all the things human could be left to do without the technology, shouldn't these be the things? Like you were talking about us being physically together and there's something more going on there than the neurons and stuff. To me, it's just the soul of all of it. And it's the soul of people, and it's the soul of art, and it's the soul of creation. And that's where it gets strange when you gobble all this stuff in it. And it's just like, how did we get to the point where the art, like you look at the history of art, it's inherently human. And like, why are we dabbling in this?
Well, the thing that I come to, like, there's kind of two pieces of this. One is this belief that there's an inevitable march of technology is honestly, like, I think it's a consequence of globalism, right? Like if the United States says we're not going to automate our car industry and everybody else does, and our cars are way more expensive and we lose market share across the globe, then it's just the people using AI get more power over the people who don't. And so is there an inevitability? I mean, is that really what we're talking about? It's kind of like, well, if I don't do nuclear, then they're going to do it. And then if I don't have it, then I can't control them not using it. And it's this kind of like constant arms race with all of tech where you've got to be the first to be the most powerful. And like secondarily, first of all, there's a lot of people that don't care about art and games strictly. And for them, this doesn't matter, right? The AI art doesn't matter unless you can, you make a case that like you should support artists even if you don't care about the art. But there's also this idea, like, as a kind of devil's advocate position, I have had a tremendous struggle being able to take something that I can envision in my head and actually manifesting it with my hands, with a paintbrush or with a piece of pencil or whatever. And I love Andrew's face.
He can't hold back.
And maybe that's just something I'm not good at. But
that's
now suddenly
art. That's art. That's the process, Stephen. Ask any artist. The artists who can actually like actualize what they envision perfectly on the page, whatever their medium. None. Like maybe there's a couple. Like, but they are like rare humans. It is almost impossible. But that's the process. That is what makes art interesting. That's what makes the physical act of doing art so fascinating, is to have the vision. Because I'm the same way. Like, you wouldn't look at like someone who isn't a good artist, might look at my sketches and be like, man, I could never do that. Oh, that's so amazing. I wish I could do that. But when I look at my sketches, I'm like, man, those never do what they never capture what's in my imagination. And then I look at other artists who are more skilled than me. I'm like, man, I wish I could do that. And then those artists are looking at other artists and saying, man, I wish I could do that. Like, it's never ending. And like, not being able to like make that thing happen is fine, because what you make is what's important. Like, that art that you create is the distillation of whatever vision comes to you brought to reality. And then that can impact you, and it can impact the people you share it with. And there's something there that I feel like when you are communicating through your artwork, people can feel what you put into it. And I think that's why this CCG thing, and like the project, you go to the project page, you go to the website, why to me it feels so gross is because what's behind it is simply a desire to make money. That's all there is. Like, it's their top line of the mission statement: the most coveted CCG products on earth, or whatever that shit it says. Like, what is that? Like
I mean,
that provides nothing to anybody except yourself. That is like the most base, selfish mission statement I've ever read for like ostensibly like a creative endeavor. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me.
Do you think it's possible for, you say the imperfection of realizing one's vision from head to paper?
Yeah.
If the thing in between there is a tool that is a generative AI tool, and I'm trying to use these text prompts, and I get close, and I get to the finish line, and I'm touching it up, and I look at it, and I have the same reaction. I say, well, it's not exactly what I had. Maybe if I could only get better at prompting this AI, if I could get practice and kind of get better at this, I could express myself further, because there are entire artists that are building their careers around doing this. Generative AI art is what they're able to do, and they can scale really quickly, and they can create these crazy things, and they look like they look. Is that not? How is that a different process than a physical process with a mouse or a hand versus just using text?
I feel like the tools that you use will let you develop different muscles, right? So like if you're using that as a tool, you're frankly going to be a weaker artist than an artist who does not. He uses more traditional tools. Straight up. Like if you're having someone there like helping to like push you along as you're like doing your exercises, like actually like helping like lift every weight for you, then you're just not going to be as strong. And that's fine. I mean, if that's the life you want to live, I think the important thing to note is like, I'm not saying like that this, I do think this stuff shouldn't exist, but I'm not going to like go and stop anybody, you do what you want. But I feel like the market for that style of thing, I think will be kind of its own space. Like and I feel like that's the way that kind of entertainment has gone these last 15 years in this, especially where so many streaming services, YouTube's blown up. There's just content everywhere. It's content versus something that actually has any value to it. So if your job, if what you feel like you need to do to make money is to create content as quickly as possible for people who want content and as much as possible, then sure, AI is fine because none of you care about anything except money,
except content, more volume.
Yeah,
content,
exactly. More. Yeah, gorge on it all you want. That's fine. That market can exist. I just have no interest in participating in it.
Let me run a thought experiment by you, because it's something I've been thinking quite a bit. So what if there's a project that comes out, and I thought that maybe Wonders could be this. What if they said, hey, it is expensive to use traditional art, which you well know. Like to pay artists for their time and to pay people who have spent 20 to 50 years practicing to make the things that come out of their head onto the page or onto the screen that much better. It's expensive and it's time consuming. And so what we want to do is we want to get a TCG product out to people who don't want to spend $100 on a booster box. We're going to sell $30 booster boxes, and everything in the booster box is going to be AI art because it's cheap to make, and we are going to help people who cannot currently afford to play TCGs play and engage in the ecosystem. And that is our mission statement. What do you think about that?
I think people who can't afford to play TCGs we should probably help them in other ways instead of giving them TCGs. That doesn't seem like that'd be top of their priority list, frankly.
That's
too pragmatic, Andrew. That's where I conclude on a lot of the altered stuff.
Pragmatic,
where it's like we're solving problems for people that probably don't have these problems. It's just like I get it. I get you can print this stuff, but like I've never had this as a TCG player myself. I've never had this problem.
Yeah, right. Of the digital ownership and like getting singles and
I need more copies of this thing
cards.
and you know, etc. Or like I can just proxy a thing around.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about the campaign you're talking about. Like, it's both AI like generated art and like the most expensive TCG Kickstarter in terms of boxes ever. So it's, like, it's kind of weird that they split the goalposts both directions.
Well, what I was going to say though too, like this hypothetical person or company that would be making an AI generated art. I mean, you might as well just make the whole game AI generated at that point. Like, who cares? AI generated rules, AI generated lore, AI generated art. do you think there's any world where they actually lower the price because they spent less money to make it?
That's never
Hell
been
no.
the case.
They're
No,
just
they
going to
fire
exactly.
people. Yeah.
Exactly. 100%. They're going to look at the market. They're going to say, okay, this is the price of a magic booster. We're going to hit that because that's what people are willing to pay, and then that's what they'll charge. So it doesn't. This removing humans from the equation, human artists, like it doesn't. It's not gonna end in any kind of like savings for the end customer at all. All it does is pull the soul out of it. But working with artists is difficult. But I do think it's also super rewarding. And I think again, with so many of the pieces that I worked on at FFG, most of the time when I was there, I was the managing art director. So I was like directing art directors and then helping to give feedback on various pieces and things. But I directed a lot of the packaging artwork. So I was fortunate enough to be able to work with top tier artists, for several months on a given piece. And when you get to see those as the public, like there's a real excitement when you see that art for the first time. And that is not only, speaks to the skill and talent of the artist who put that work into it, but it speaks to our collaborative process and how we made that thing together and how much intention and thought we put into it. That comes through when you see that art piece for the first time. And I just feel like I feel like this whole like conversation around rights and taking away jobs and all that stuff, I think it's all completely beside the point. It's all completely beside the point because I think there's a very, very big market for people who want things made by humans. And I think that market will only grow when more things made by computers come to market and people are like, that's garbage. That doesn't, there's something wrong with this product and I don't feel anything toward it. So I think my hope is that the market it'll just all work itself out. And then AI can live in this other weird world where it's like helping to smooth over like data and whatever weird shit it's doing in the background. Like who knows?
I think it's always an odd mix to me to have physical tabletop games leveraging these things, because it seems inherent to me that people that want to physically buy a game, assemble it, go in person and play and sit across from and put all this effort in. It's one thing when we're talking about making 30-second YouTube clips or 5-minute YouTube videos and pumping out content and like playing the algorithm and we need, whatever and views and ads and all that stuff. But it seems so disconnected. I can understand the angle coming from the like collectible / finance people and NFTs and all that merging together. But like when you start layering it in on top into an audience that is already prone to probably not be super digital or concerned about these kind of things, it just seems like fortunately, like it seems like the wrong audience for that kind of effort.
Well, that's what Sorcery did. That's what Earthborne did, right? You made it a bigger piece of the selling point. Is like, these are the people, these are the artists being used. This is a very human endeavor. Like, and it feels like that is a winning proposition for tabletop, like you said, more often than not, as compared to other industries that might just not have that level of, hanging out with each other.
Yeah. Well, I think to your point, Andrew, I believe this as well, which is
Andrew lost audio.
Oh, okay.
Andrew lost audio. Can't hear us.
Oh, can't hear us. Okay, hold on. I can fix that.
He's working on it.
I can fix that.
The machines have heard us.
Yeah, dude. It's Edward Kim needs to.
I've been waiting to use that line all day.
get in the party. Andrew, I'm good on my end. I'm giving you signal, so it's something over there on your side. Although I feel like we got Andrew's thesis pretty good already.
He could just turn the stream on and hear us.
If we need to bail out, we can. What were you saying?
So I was saying, Andrew was kind of making the point. I hope this is true. Seems like he's texting you. And I believe this is true. As a company and an entity, we're betting on this being true, which is that real things made by real people that are intended to be used for people to get together, sit across the table from each other and play games are fundamentally superior to the alternative. And so if that's not true, that's fine. We'll fail and we'll move along and whatever.
Yeah.
But like, it's sort of like, investing in 3.0 and this physical space for people to play. Of course, there's an underlying belief that that's more valuable than sitting at home on a computer or, whatever. Similarly, he was saying that like real art made by an artist, like the struggle of that and the restraint of physically having to make something, both in the form of a game and the art itself and working with artists and all that stuff, leads to a better, and by better, it's more soulful, it's more real, it's more connective, it's more...
But it's all these weird ethereal... like...
You know it when you see
But it is. I mean, I think we have to basically... We'll just get off here with Andrew, right? Are you good, Jonathan?
Yep.
Hey, thanks, Andrew, for joining us.
Yeah.
By the way, that was actually a pretty good time for you to bail, because you got your thesis in there, I feel like.
So it's either true or not. And as AI gets better and it's easier for someone to come in and make 300 pieces of AI art and make a TCG and have AI play a 10,000 games a year game to play test it and figure out what the best cards are and all that kind of stuff. And there may be some uses in there that are helpful in various ways, right? Who knows? Like I'm not saying anything definitive there, but you can just feel it. Like when you see a piece of sorcery art, the best example, because that's not just all art done by a human. That's physical hand-painted art.
Yeah.
And that's appealing to me. And I hope that's appealing to a lot of people, and I hope it can be felt.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, you see this art for this world, the Worlds of the First. Is that what it's called?
Wonders of the First, yeah.
And it just hits a certain kind of way for you.
Yeah, for me.
Yeah. And
some people
it won't be for everybody.
Don't care. Some people love it.
Yeah. But I hope we look back at it someday and it's like, hey, we were right.
Oh, yeah, me too.
But
I bet everybody does.
But I'm
Jeff
leaving
does
room.
too.
I think that's the thing with like Jeff and whoever and Altered, etc. I'm leaving room for myself to be wrong. But it's also okay that like as a person, that this is what I prefer. This is what I will choose to buy. This is what I will choose to support. And they can go do their thing. That's totally reasonable. And I'll be curious to see how that develops or it doesn't.
Yeah.
But I will say, regardless, on the project front,
I can't say goodbye.
it being a front-loaded thing, like in a big piece of it, immediately just like a lot of flags are being raised. And I think that'll be true for a lot of people in tabletop.
Yeah, for a lot of folks, that's the case. And the frustrating thing about it remains that what we're talking about is not a cognitive process. It's not about your brain. It's something else. People talk about soul, spirit, romance, all these kinds of words that I have used. That underneath all of this thought process, there is something that is meaningful. That it's not just this kind of deterministic organism walking around making zeros and ones in a more complex brain than a machine currently has and will eventually have. That there is some kind of essence to a human being that desires relationship and sharing and engaging with things that people have used their creative process to make. And the creative process is well beyond just a cognitive prompting.
Yeah.
It's your whole body, your whole soul gets involved in it, right? So that's that's the hope.
And I think that, Andrew was talking about the kids being presented with the reality that is scrolling and like TikTok and this whole thing. The sad part to me, and sad and freeing part, is that I think reality and something more real is just around everyone all the time. They just need to wake up to it, right? It's almost like the Matrix unplugging, but way less dramatic in terms of just like, hey, get off TikTok and like go for a walk and run into a neighbor and be willing to say hi and go do something with other people and call your friend and go meet up or engage or do the thing. It's like, it's almost, there's this, and I get it, it's easier. It reminds me of, there was a show, what's this show? Halt and Catch Fire. It's fictional companies in the 80s and 90s and the early internet. And it's Yahoo versus Google. And Yahoo's whole strategy was, this is the information on the internet curated by humans.
Yeah.
And Google's was, we have an algorithm, an AI that's gonna make search happen, right? And Google won.
Oh yeah.
So in that use case, of the internet, at least currently, Google won that race by a lot.
And it's at least currently is important there.
Yeah, and that's where like I'm watching it and I'm like, I'm rooting for Yahoo. It's like, wait, no, human curated content. This is what I want.
I'm over here on Google being like, the search results are awful now.
Well, yes.
They're awful.
You know why?
Sponsored.
Money.
And it's
money
Google makes
rigging the system.
Google makes an algorithm. People make an algorithm to make Google rank their stuff, and it's machines talking to machines, and it's the most inane thing on the planet. And we've got Andrew. See if we can say bye.
I see him.
He's trying to come in. Let me see if I can get you.
I saw him nodding at my Yahoo comments.
All right, give it a shot. Yeah.
They know. See, the AI shut me down.
Yeah.
I am using.
You were talking bad about it.
I know. I'm using Google Chrome for this Google Meet because it always shuts down if I use a different browser on me, like midway through. So.
Yep. Well, hey, any final thoughts, Andrew, before we get out of here?
No, I think it's an important conversation to have. I'm thankful for you guys for bringing me on and talking about it, because I do think it is definitely a conversation worth having. But I think it's also, like, from my perspective, like I said, I'm hopeful it'll just work itself out. But I do think that AI is not inevitable, despite what people may say. I do think it's something that I don't think it's something that we need to just invite into our lives because this is just the way it is now. I feel like there's so much of it that, just like you were talking about earlier, like when you have that feeling of like, this doesn't feel right. And then you're like, oh, you know what? It's fine. It's like, that's the feeling I have about AI, that it just doesn't feel right. It feels like a misstep to me. And sure, I think there could be like good applications of it, I suppose, but it doesn't need to be everywhere and everything.
Right on.
Those are my last thoughts. So anyway, thanks for having me on here, you guys.
Thanks again for Earthborne. Hey, when is your pledge managers closing? What, June something?
Yeah, June 18th, Pledge Manager closes. And if you are a Board Game Geek person and would like to vote for Earthborne Rangers for any of the 5 nominated categories, voting is open until the end of Sunday. So go in there and see if we can win one of those non-fungible graphics that we can then put on our website.
Yeah.
Awesome, Andrew. Hey, thanks so much, man. Appreciate you.
All right, see you guys. Thanks.
All right.
Whew. All right.
AIs and NFTs. I think that's it. Let's do the news.
All right, starting from the top.
Do we need a stinger? Do you think we need a stinger in that?
Yeah, we'll probably get a stinger in there. Yeah, we'll probably get a stinger. Right now, I just kind of pop up the
game,
logos, and that helps.
First I'm going in Jonathan order.
That's right.
Keyforge.
I was going to ask Andrew, what do you think about the algorithmic generation of a Keyforge deck and how that plays into a machine having the creative process?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting. Go ahead, Sean.
This may be a 2-3 episode kind of a scenario. Like, I don't think we're going to solve it in one.
Yeah,
we can revisit.
To me,
I think we can solve it right now.
Algorithmically generating Keyforge decks, or an AI creating Keyforge decks of human-made cards, and then interspersing like icons and stuff. This is, in my view, is like a reasonable use of this kind of stuff, like technology and tabletop.
Yeah.
It's a fine line.
Well, let's use it in like medicine too, and like climate stuff and science. Let's make people's lives better.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't think.
Yeah. Like I get the utility of this one, where it's like this real art made by people, game made by people, everything made by people, and the algorithm is putting those pieces together in different ways. It feels different. Yeah. That's a different level of that for me. Anyways, their campaign's about to end. Apparently, there's only a few hours left. Is it ending today?
Check.
Where are they at?
There is. Oh, it's closed. There was 22 hours when I wrote it, but I think when this started, there was hours left.
Where'd they end at?
1,000,100.
No,
100.
That can't be right.
And 1,100.
Hold on.
$1.1 million?
No, I don't believe this.
In Amber
right?
Skies?
Wait, hold on. Maybe I'm doing this.
Okay, there's 8 hours left.
I'm doing this wrong.
There's 8 hours left.
And you're looking at the old one.
Yeah.
You're on the old one.
I was like, and 424,000.
That's great.
Which I'm pretty sure in our little chartometer, we were in the $400,000 to $500,000 range. So big brain geniuses right here.
How many people?
8 hours left. 9 hours left.
1,500.
1,500. See, this is the crazy thing. You can make a game for 1,500 people these days, and it's great. It works. You can do it. Isn't that crazy? Now there will be more people, I think, at retail and stuff, but like even if that's all they did over and over again, I think that would be enough for them to make it work.
And we should maybe have Christian on at some point to talk about this, but like I would be curious how critical that is for Keyforge's success to have that upfront direct revenue, higher margin, core base buying this thing, doing this piece. Then you can release at retail. And they've got the whole, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, like the stacks on stacks of this set that's only going to retail, but you have to back the thing and become a fortress and all that kind of stuff.
Ooh, I'd be curious, Christian's take on AI.
Yeah.
Because it's different. I mean, it's so different than Android. It's got to be so different. Yeah.
All right.
One thing about making it for 1,500 people is I think people get caught up in trying to rate success as a success of total population instead of realizing that in the last generation, the population of Earth has tripled. And so like 15,000 would have been a pretty good success 100 years ago, right?
1,500.
Yeah. It's like we got like that's pretty sizable amount.
Even inside of Tabletop, I feel like the audience, like the number of people playing tabletop games has grown tremendously in the past 20, 30 years. So, and then on top of that, factories, technology, things getting made have scaled up. So the cost and the access is a lot lower. Whereas in the 90s, it would have been very expensive, like way more expensive to make the same TCG that you make today, because there's a lot more factories that are capable and have the tools, and they've already paid for the tools and all this stuff. Same with like the number of artists in this space. Like there's it's easier to find artists because of the internet and the whole 9 yards. So you can find a way to do things at a smaller scale and be successful that would have been way harder even 20 years ago.
That's what was that? Who was that guy that did the 1,000 true fans theory?
I forget his name.
South by Southwest guy.
The Pomplamoose guy, and he mentioned it, but it was a different theorist that had that. 1,000 true fans that spend $100 a year.
$100,000
was basically you could have one person have a really good income with 1,000 fans. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
What else we got? Up, we have Warlord.
Oh, let's do it.
I just want to open this real quick. I got a knife. So I got this. I got hooked up.
Look at that.
Look
at that open glass. It's the stupidest thing.
And then he's just flying that knife around.
Don't believe anything Zach says on these streams until he changes that.
He's not. Well, if we ruin the cards, they just become more collectible. Because there's less of them. Just kidding.
He's going to fudge them. He's going to fudge those cards.
Woodrow hooked me up with a guy named Fabio from Card Game Geek, which is a European website that sells a bunch of old dead card games, which is where I got this.
Wait, it's not affiliated with Board Game Geek at all?
No, I don't think so. So there's some stuff that I know was coming in here, but I think there's stuff in here I didn't know was coming in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So shout out to Fabio for being awesome. And he really hooked me up in terms of like, so I wanted, I'm not going to get you. I wanted.
Hey, man, the blood bubble's real.
Blood bubble, dude.
I came from the
blood
school
bubble.
of the blood bubble.
You never learned about the blood bubble?
No.
Steve, can you explain to the people out there what
the blood bubble is? If you take the sharp object and you put your hands straight and then you do a big circle, that's where nobody should be.
I thought it was related to the bubble wrap.
No.
On here?
No, I don't want anything that involves blood and bubble wrap.
Anyways, so the Warlord Kickstarter is launching tomorrow.
Yes, it is.
Is that accurate?
Yep.
And I have notes here that says, "Can we announce our partnership?"
Yeah,
I think yes.
Didn't we already?
I don't think you're supposed to say that.
No, I know. I'm joking.
I think we already did it.
I think
we're partnering with the boys.
I think this is a booster box of the Betrayal set.
Yeah, well, that
which is somewhere in there.
stands to reason.
Yes, 48 booster packs of 1 card. So
48. Wow, that's a weird number.
I wanted. They have what's the format where everything's legal?
Ancients, yeah.
So this game they're kickstarting is from 20 years ago, and it's backwards compatible.
2001 to 2007 or 2008
was the original run. So backwards compatible. Whoops, peanuts. And all these old cards. I needed to own some, you know?
Yeah, so they're going to have the Saga format. I believe it's the Saga format, which is just the newly released stuff, and that's going to be the primary format. And then there's the Ancients format, which you can play, which is all of the back catalog. And then there's the Ancients format that can be applied to the 4-player games as well, or you can do the Saga format for the 4-player games. So there's basically 2 game types and then 2 different formats. And then they're also going to have PvE, which is going to be sick. I was really excited about that announcement / product. That looks good, man. Hey, that still stands up, you know?
Here's some pamphlets. I don't know. I honestly don't know what all's in here. So we're going to explore this together. Learn to Play rulebook. I'll give that to you.
Okay, Learn to Play.
Dude, look at this. Play the game sticker.
Learn to play.
I think these are posters. Josh and Woodrow were showing us some of these earlier here. Look at this.
Winter Campaign.
4th edition. That was the
German version.
The alt universe German version.
From the German, yeah.
I just got
Nice shot.
Look at this. Look at this battle box full of goodies.
Look
We
at
have a
that.
top down.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Most of this was traditional art.
We will be exploring this, I think, over time. Dude, check out that Phoenix Rising. You guys ever seen that?
Ooh, you got some boosters in there?
Yeah, I think
some boosties?
This is like some constructed decks here too.
The Forest of Bone.
What's going on? This is all 4th edition in the white
Sands
box.
of Oblivion. Okay, so this is when the German LCG.
This is not, nor are these, I don't think.
Cool.
So Woodrow helped put together deck lists that would be good to start with.
Do you buy them in singles?
And then, well, he just has a bunch of stuff.
Oh.
So he built them for me based on what Woodrow recommended.
That's great. That's a really cool thing. Huh. Josh is in the chat. What's up, Josh? Inches is all cards ever. Small ban list. Alliance is all cards. No current ban list. 70 card singleton deck. So Alliance is the format for the 4-player games. So that's all cards. And then you get the Alliance with another Warlord faction, basically. So it's double faction. Yeah, Dr. Goody, it's going live tomorrow. So yeah, so we're partnering with Warlord. So you've seen some videos. We've seen the documentary. We got some gameplay videos that are going to be releasing. We've got we got a 4-player game that we're going to produce up at some point and release. And then just going to support during the Kickstarter. We'll probably stream maybe next week and kind of just make sure everybody in our audience knows about Warlord, because I think it's like the perfect match. Most of the people who are into probably us over the past decade would probably be into Warlord. So I'm going to send out email and like make sure everybody knows that the Kickstarter is going on. And then further down the line, after they run through their Kickstarter and their pledge manager and all of that, we will then have product for sale and kind of, it'll be like sorcery or anything else where we'll have products available, and it'll be a pretty standard retail product for us. And it'll add to we've got on the website, and we'll just support them in what they're doing and probably do a subscription and all of that. So.
Yeah. And one of the things that I conceptually knew for a while, but it really has hit home after that, we posted that documentary, and a huge shout out to everyone who's posted kind words on that. The team, particularly Jonathan and Stephen, put a lot of work into it. And seeing those comments has been great. But the built-in like Overlord system, really cool, knew about that. But then it being utilized as sort of a built-in PvE piece of this. You asked a couple weeks ago, I was like, why hasn't there been a TCG with cooperative PvE built in? And it was right under our nose the whole time.
Yeah, it's right there.
It was right there.
love the team that's doing that. Kingswood, Josh and Woodrow are just, the biggest part of our process for partnerships and stuff is just the publisher. Like, honestly, it's just talking to the publishers and getting a read on what kind of people they are and what they believe in and what their values are. So Josh and Woodrow are killer, and we think the game will do well. We hope it'll do well. We'll all get to see, I guess.
About to find out. Can
you bring it back? Is there enough players that played previously that want to play the new version, all that kind of stuff? And that's in our Discord, there certainly is.
That was kind of to my point. AEG originally made it 20 years ago, which is a very different environment than today.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see. But I think even just the fundamental economics are way different now than they were then, in terms of print costs and how many people you need actively buying and what that looks like. And we see it with sorcery. I think there's a hunger for a game that is not just like constantly shoving things out,
Sure.
And like Pokemon and Magic and Yu are the biggest offenders of this, but it's just like fatigue of like how much stuff is coming out all the time.
Well, I think, and I was saying this, I think this is a perfect companion to sorcery. And I've just accepted that I just love old fantasy. I just love it. It's what I grew up with. I love it. Fine. I'm not going to fight it anymore. I love old fantasy and things that look like Warlord and sorcery. And sorcery has this big once a year giant release, and it's like a big moment, and it's incredible. And then Warlord has probably 3 sets a year. They've got the PvE thing going on. They've got this back catalog of cards. But then they've also got this, they actually probably have the most casual organized play system that exists that is still organized play. Yeah. That's not just like gain points and put them on the wall or whatever. The fact that the organized play system revolves around communities interacting with each other is, to me, the whole point that a lot of people play at local stores. And so it's not about winning the trophy, it's about getting the chance to challenge the tournament organizer to maybe win a game against them so that you get this 1-of-1 card or 1-of-X card. That is what I think a lot of people are craving from an organized play system as well.
Yeah, I feel like like I've played a lot of competitive games, and there's only so many times you can have the tiered system and the world championship and the money and these prizes and stuff. And I think it's very, from a business perspective, just a smart area it's good timing.
Yeah.
Like it's a smart area to play in because it's a different kind of competitive.
Yeah.
And it's very appealing.
Yeah. Like you're trying to go beat the Medusan Lord that Woodrow is piloting at Gen Con. That's your tournament.
That's the peak.
That's the peak of it, right? And that's so cool. And like to imagine that you can just be a deck builder that doesn't do anything except try to build decks that can beat these high tier bosses.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I mean, that so many people, that's all they want to do, right?
Yeah. I'm very much looking forward to that one.
And this, JK, never have I wanted to be a TO more to facilitate that experience for others. And that is what these community leaders do.
Yeah.
They wanted these Orion ropers, like these are the guys,
100%.
they want to be involved.
It's cool that they get such a unique role. And then you're also going to have the Dragon Lords and Medusan Lords that get a unique role too.
Yeah.
It's just it's different. It's very different. It's got that 90s, 2000s thing going on.
I hope they pull it off.
Yeah, me too. All right, moving on. alphaclash, Unrivaled is releasing soon. So I'm expecting we'll charge for that later this week.
Got a video went up on that last week. The Unrivaled, the set preview.
Set review. Can you pull up the Flare promo card real quick?
Yes.
I have more show and tell that I want to do.
Oh.
Mainly, I wanted to give a shout. I went to Vegas to the first Big OP tournament, and there's been a whole wave of people being excited about it. But Josh, the like marketing person at Rise and Empire,
Josh Horton, right?
Josh Horton, his wife Cassie made these things that I thought were really cool. I had never seen it before, but if you made top 8, you got this promo card, and she made this cool case with the date in it.
Whoa!
Isn't that? It was like randomly nice.
She made that?
Well, she made the thing holding the
case,
card, right?
Wow.
And you can obviously unscrew it and get the card out.
I love that though. Like it's just such a intimate effort, right?
It's yeah, it's really nice.
It's just not like hype and.
So I wanted to shout that out on stream because I just thought that was
that's so cool,
and it was in my bag. But yeah, the tournament was great. I definitely been bit by the bug personally.
Yeah.
It's really fun, and set 3 is great. We covered the set 3 last week when I was exhausted the next day from getting back from my trip.
Yeah.
And that's just I think the more time you spend around that team, there is such a passion for what they're creating and the IP that they're creating in the universe. And they did the novel and they just finished the comic book Kickstarter. They're taking a lot on. It's really crazy, actually. It's almost like the 300 story. It's like very few people doing a lot. So commend their efforts. They're supposed to be announcing a lot of other events happening soon. But that it's just cool to witness them doing their thing, and I think they're hitting their stride across the board.
Yeah.
Could you give me just kind of a quick rundown of how the tournament went, like what the experience was like?
Yeah. So it was in Vegas at the Convention Center, Level Up Expo. I don't know. That's a big convention. It reminded me of like Gen Con, except for the tabletop section is like this big.
Yeah.
And the rest of the convention is comic books and anime and cosplay and video games and all kinds of stuff. But they had on Saturday, they had the world premiere of Set 3. It's like a month early. So you got 10 packs. You open your packs. They have a Swiss tournament with a cut. That's where I got that top 8 card. And it's just super fun.
Did you get a box?
I got a lot of boxes.
In that tournament? I can't remember. Did everyone get a box or what was
everyone that played on the constructed event on Sunday got a box.
Cool.
But then it was like top 16 qualify for the Pro Tour and get booster boxes, and then you get more booster boxes the more you... There's a funny video that I took because me, Ian, Matt, and Hamilton test together, and going to the top 8 of the sealed event, we were the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed.
Wow, that's cool.
And then Hamilton ended up winning the sealed tournament. We're all surprised. But they kind of just forgot. They were at the end, they're like, oh, here's your guys' product and stuff that you're getting. So we're walking, and I look back, and they're all just like got these big boxes like doing this. So I took a selfie video like with them in the background. It's just hilarious to see them walking off with these cases of product. But yeah, I'm excited to play Set 3 sealed with you. It was super fun.
Yeah, it looked great. I mean, the vanilla cards are great.
Just the common base level stuff.
Wonderful stuff.
Yeah, I think I have a hard time describing this because I really intensely competed at Fab for several years. Mm-hmm. And Fab, one of the greatest competitive games of all time, maybe the best. And currently on the market, they have the best competitive support. Mm-hmm. Just the whole ecosystem and all that stuff. But playing more Sorcery and alphaclash specifically recently, this is the wrong, maybe you can help me find the words. Fab is very mathy, is what I want to say.
It is.
There's a lot of math involved in all these games.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's very few unknowns.
And it's like, I think it's because you draw back up every turn. And every turn, like if I'm on defense and then offense, cards have X value. Mm-hmm. And the value doesn't really change that much.
Yeah.
Like if I don't block with it and you don't attack, I lost value. But like the value of the card in my hand doesn't usually spike up or down. Mm-hmm. There's some cards in alphaclash where they're either worth nothing or they're worth infinite.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, we don't go into this as much, but when you draw your hand of alphaclash or sorcery cards, I'm seeing cards that I might be like, I think this would be good on turn 6.
Yeah, in the future.
And so I'm like, well, do I want to try to get a better card now, or do I want to keep this good turn 6 card for turn 6? And Fab is always just now,
yeah.
with a little bit of arsenal play. So it opens up this kind of, did I make the right choice? Who knows? 6 turns from now, it could be the biggest bomb on the planet, or it could be a total done.
Yeah, like even if you just have a removal card, it's like I can use it now. Mm-hmm. It's like, but if next turn they play a bigger thing, maybe I wait.
Yeah.
And part of that about Fab, that's the genius of Fab, is that now makes it feel like you're constantly in this fight.
Yeah.
And it's like this, you're in it the whole time, and there's no zoom out.
Plan ahead, yeah.
You're just like doing your thing, and it's one little exchange at a time. But yeah, it's definitely it's a very different kind of experience. But the community, like the sealed premiere, the stakes are way lower. The games are really fast. Like you play best of 3. I haven't played a best of 3 game since Star Wars TCG maybe. Like,
yeah.
Especially in tournaments. And best of 3 is a whole different ball game. Like because you play game 1 and then after game 1 you can sideboard. You don't sideboard before game 1.
Yeah, that's the magic.
And it's like, oh, they have a clash ground that's a problem. I'm going to put these things in my deck now. Mm-hmm. Or like in Limited, I lost game 1 because I was playing against someone who was on Lord Krung. And he has 1 defense. And then they had a clash ground that gave all of my alpha stuff -2 attack.
Wow.
Or he got so it was like immediately, everything on my board is -3. Mm-hmm. So I can't do anything. And I already put my clash grounds down as resources. So I can't even replace it. I'm just like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Then he wins game 1. And then game 2, I like hard mulligan to get a clash ground, and then I'm just holding it.
Yeah.
It's like, I will wait until he plays that thing. And then he played it, I replaced it, and then I handily won all my...
it's cool.
But you lose the first one, you have a chance. Anyways, best of 3. It was a good time. Then Sunday was the constructed event. We did some streaming showing that off. We ended up on a red-black torque deck. It won. Peter, our friend, won with it. Hamilton got second with it. And then we had 2 more in the top 8. I got 9th.
Did Hamilton make his flight?
Barely.
Wow.
He posted, he was like, he messaged me because he was supposed to be catching a flight. And he's like, can I stay in the room again? It's like, of course. And the next thing I got was like 10 minutes later. He's like, actually, I made my flight. And he was off to the races.
He somehow got through. I know he was like 30. He was leaving the hall and he was 30 minutes from like fly time.
It's crazy.
I don't know how anyone plays a finals game with cars driving around behind them. It was like
it was like a Street Fighter background. It was so funny.
It was crazy, man.
That was definitely one of the things I love about the Rising Empire team is they're constantly evolving and learning, getting better. Period. And that's just built into who they are as people. And so like immediately after was having some conversations, and they were talking about things they want to improve for next time. And this just, you learn, because they're hosting this at like a convention that has convention hours in a hall, not like Gen Con where it's the event space is open all night, but it's kind of closing. And so they had it where you had 6 rounds of Swiss with the top 8, best of 3 after the Swiss in a single day, and the hall closes at 7 or something. So fortunately, the convention let them keep doing their thing. But you saw the trucks on Sunday night specifically.
Everyone's packing up the booths,
packing it up, doing its thing. But yeah, it was a great time. A lot of great people in the community. Had a blast. There was actually some really good cosplay going on. Jason was Mean Streak, my last round opponent. Also, I played against Gabriel, a younger player, but he was also playing Mean Streak, and he had these awesome sunglasses on the whole time. And he was one of the like just kindest people I've played games with. Oh. And I did he had never seen it, but it was like a torque boom situation, doing a ton of damage. And as soon as he understood how it worked, he's like, wow, that's a lot of damage. It was just a very good moment.
Love it.
And then also, meantime, these tournaments are happening, but they have their booth. And this is part of their strategy, which is they wanted to create a few things. One is their own IP. So they really believe in building an IP, and they have an interesting story they want to tell. And then they have the TCG being kind of the core product, novel, comic book, potential board game, other stuff that's going to be going on around in this IP. But they have a booth at a video game comic book cosplay convention that's lots of people. And so part of it is they want the TCG to be a bridge for people into tabletop that potentially haven't been into tabletop or haven't done it in a long time. So they had a booth with probably 10 or 15 demo slots that you could do. And that thing was jamming the whole time. Like I never went by and it was anything but full, basically.
Yeah, it's great.
So it's really cool. I know they sold a lot of starters and booster boxes and stuff to new people getting into the game. And I think it's really good for tabletop because they're introducing this hobby to people who might not otherwise actually get introduced to it, which is really, really notable.
Nice. All right. alphaclash. Well in. All right. What about Arkham Horror?
Arkham Horror map is now MSRP. You want to tell us about that, Mr. Marketing?
Oh, sure.
What'd you say?
Asmodee released a retailer policy and I don't know, kind of they didn't really post it anywhere. I tried to find a public posting of it. I couldn't find it.
They emailed some people?
Emails from retailers, but the long and short of it is most retailers have a minimum advertised price, which is 20% off of your MSRP, which is the suggested retailer price. And what they basically said is, hey, like a Games Workshop situation, there's only one price now, where your minimum price that you can advertise our products at is our retail price that we're suggesting you sell it at. And it's like, well, honestly, if you think about it, that really makes a lot of sense. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know. I guess price competition, it's like if I were a retailer or if I were a publisher, I would want the competition to be about the quality of the retailer that is not just I can sell it for less than the other guy. But there's also like if retailers get stuck with a bunch of product they can't advertise for lower than MSRP, they have no release valve to then send it. So that came from, I think, that idea.
Yeah, well, I remember I've oscillated on this whole map policy thing over time because back in 2012, 13, 14, when places like Miniature Marker, Cool Stuff had X-Wing ships at $8.
Right.
And we were paying like $7.50. And it's like, how in the world? And, you know, one of the struggles with tabletop is there's thousands of retailers. And there's markets like TCG Player, eBay. And
the products are identical.
Yeah. So like map, generally speaking, as I've learned, is just like almost comically difficult to enforce. Yeah. Now you can enforce it if you have certain people, like a Miniature Market, that is a bigger named verifiable entity. But stopping some retail store from creating a TCG Player account and labeling it, you know, Steve's Card Shop, and selling boxes at whatever they want is like, you can't price control.
That's impossible.
Like it's really just impossible in the modern era. But, you know, it has, I haven't really seen it with X-Wing and I haven't really checked in a long time, but like it did seem to have an impact when it was launched, specifically with Asmodee, to go from $8 X-Wing ships to whatever map was.
11, 12, yeah.
So I've gone back and forth. It is funny now in retrospect that map is anything but MSRP.
Right,
like
right.
Why don't you just make the map price the MSRP price?
Well, that's what Games Workshop did a long time ago.
Yeah. But I think when you're trying to, there's layers of enforcement too that are challenging. Like, okay, even if you can figure out who Steve's Card Shop is on TCG Player, it's like a publisher sells to a distributor who sells to a retailer. So really, to do a map policy, the distributor has to be willing to play.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, distributor, Steve's Card Shop is one of my best customers. I'm not going to tell them they can't buy X-Wing.
Sure.
And if you're a publisher like, you know, alphaclash or sorcery, it's like, there's this assumption that they could do something about you selling it at half off on TCG Player. but there's so many layers in between.
And maybe they could if they really wanted to, but you just have to make the bet that they don't.
Yeah, well, and then it's like, okay, you do all this effort to create a system where you can verify and penalize, and enforceability is the hard part here. You can have the rule, but it doesn't mean it's enforceable. But then you're doing all this work, and it's like, for what end?
Yeah,
like to try to keep an X-Wing ship at $15.
In the meantime, Wizards just dropped MSRP entirely. They dropped all of it and let the market decide. So a lot of different takes, but I heard somebody say best that MAP is designed to control medium retailers, because large retailers like Target, you don't have the power to say no to, and small retailers you can't police. So it's like there's a few in the middle that maybe it impacts. I guess we're kind of one of those.
Medium.
Yeah, so they changed the policy, and our Arkham Horror subscription was the only subscription we had that was not at MSRP from Asmodee, the other one being Marvel Champions. It was already at MSRP, so we upped the Arkham Horror subscription to MSRP because that is obviously the policy now. And we split the expansion subscription that was supposed to serve both through the same subscription, is split into now investigator and campaign subscriptions. That's all done automatically. So if you were a subscriber to the expansion, then you're now a subscriber to both the campaign expansion and the investigator expansion. So it'll function the same. The only difference is that it will actually have the proper labeling and funnels for the product types. And that's primarily because we thought in the very beginning when we launched this, from what they were saying when they announced the expansion change from Mythos packs to big boxes, that those investigator and campaigns would release at the exact same time. They have proven not to release at the same time. So we were having to do a lot of weird stuff to try to make that subscription work, even though things were happening at different times. And so now we are just going to fire off the investigator expansion whenever they come in, and we're going to fire off the campaign when they come in, and just let Asmodee do what they do.
And there you have it. 8 years later, Arkham's still rolling.
Still rolling.
Next
Love Arkham.
Up, we have Ashes Reborn.
Had a lot of good reports of the most recent Arkham expansion being awesome. Hemlock Vale. Yeah. So that's good, because I think MJ did not work on that one. And so the passing of the torch has been
proof positive.
Very good. Yeah.
It can happen. It has happened.
Yeah.
All right. Ashes, next set right here. We were thinking about playing it today. Siege of Lordswall.
Siege of Lordswall. Was that June 7th?
Scheduled for June 7th, I think.
Release on that one.
Now you set a date. Now I'm nervous.
I think it's 7th. It's June, early June, the first Friday of June.
If you sign up for a subscription right now, this is what you'll get next. It should say upcoming. If it says charged, that's what it flips to, right?
Yeah, charged means you're too late.
Then you're too late. Or shipped or delivered. Anything besides upcoming.
It is the 7th.
Nailed it.
June 7th.
Yeah.
Hop on the sub and grab it.
Continues on, isn't it? It's almost been 4 years since.
It's a beautiful little form factor, isn't it? Beautiful form factor, beautiful art on this.
Crazy.
Great characters too. I think this is probably, if you were in a vacuum, this would be the best of the PvE expansions in terms of just like fundamentally concepts that most tabletop players are going to really like dig. It's kind of got the the holy versus zombie thing going on. It's like everyone can understand that, right?
Light versus dark.
Yeah, I love it.
A tale as old as time.
It's like us today.
Next, Fab.
The
Fab.
What's going with Fab?
Part the Misfill collection box is on the list. This is the 3 Blitz decks, 3 packs, 1 playmat, and a reusable deck box.
Yep, that's flowing through the sub.
Blitz subscription.
The Blitz subscription is going to send that. Yeah, this seems to be their new way of doing it.
Yeah. Spoiler season continues. We've seen more previews. They have a bunch of creators with the like tale of so and so. But do you have the time snap potion? This is the Pro Tour Amsterdam promo.
I like what they're doing with those.
Dude, time snap with the looks like the eclipse with the moon, and
it's great. Yeah, bring that on. All you got to do is make things that are
you think a computer made that?
Nah, I don't think so.
I don't either.
I think
that's got that human touch.
Although I don't know.
No, that's human. That's got to be human.
Well, it doesn't have to be. I mean, maybe the AI's gotten really good. I don't know.
I would bet a lot on that.
I think they would have to say if they're using AI. Right? Yeah. They're not.
I don't know.
I have no indication that they are. That card is beautiful.
Do we have the Fab promo?
Card is beautiful.
Our promo?
Yeah.
No, we don't have a digital version of it.
I just got that actually yesterday. Oh. Whelming Gust Wave.
Still time to sign up.
Is there?
There is.
Is it not out yet?
It's not out.
It comes out. It accelerated once we showed this bad boy.
It comes out at the
this thing actually
out of
curled up
stock.
pretty
It's
good.
not released. It's coming out the same weekend as alphaclash and what's the other one?
This was the like one taped to the top of the box. You can't really see it at all. It's a beautiful card. What are you saying?
I don't know. I thought you were saying something, so I wasn't interrupting.
Anyway, you get one of these per booster box here.
Et cetera, et cetera.
It should be, if you want to see it close, it should be on our website, right?
Yeah.
We'll put it up on
It
the
is there.
website.
Did I put it
So
on the
if you want to see
website?
it.
Big
I don't know
brain.
if it is yet, but
I think
Probably
I
will
put it
be.
up there already, maybe. I think I put it in the folder, maybe. Should have.
Earthborne.
Oh, Andrew.
Pledge man. We just talked to
he
Andrew.
said all this stuff. On
He
his
already
way
said
up.
it. It's
I've got a
over.
scoop, man.
He already newsed himself.
All right, in case you missed it, Pledge Manager closing June 18th.
Yeah.
New review from Dan on Space Biff. I didn't
That's a
see
good
that. He
He
didn't
didn't
talk
say
about
that. Yeah. Space
Yeah,
Biff.
that's good.
Got a good review.
Okay.
And then, of course, the Golden Geek Awards.
Have they gotten a bad review?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's
People are just like, I just don't like that I don't know what to do.
yes.
Well, I
It's-
also think a lot of people have reviewed it by playing like 1 or 2 times.
So Andrew had a write up on this. I think it was on our Discord, and I think it was pitch perfect, which is basically like these reviewers have a ton of games they have to make pretty much snap judgments on, so they can get through it, make the video, move on to the next one.
Content.
And Earthborne, you can't really make a snap judgment on because you have to actually sit in it and play it for at least 4 days, into it.
Sounds like an excuse to me.
I also think Andrew has caught me several times asking questions. Like when we first played, and I was like, "How do I kill it?" And he's like, "You missed the whole point,
You can't
man."
do that.
Yeah. You can't.
So I made it to
can.
day 4 with my group finally, and it was like, "Oh, this is now we're Earthborne."
You're in it, yeah.
And then I was talking to Andrew, and I was like, "Is there a way in future campaigns to just skip to day 4?" And he was like, "You're sort of missing the point. Like you should want to just like lean back and enjoy it and enjoy the experience and experience whatever it is you're going to experience."
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I was like, "That's fair. That's fair." But I feel like if all you did was the introductory stuff, there's a certain mentality. Like if you come from Arkham or certain board games or certain experiences, it's sort of like, it's almost like the first season of a lot of TV shows.
Sure.
It's like, well, can we just skip to the good stuff?
This is like the
You know,
tutorial level in the
that's
game,
part of it.
right?
You know, you just. Anyways, I could see that feeling different.
Plus,
When you really get in there.
To Clockwork Gadget's point, which just popped up, but he said a lot of people think the game isn't hard enough. And I think part of it is when you're sitting down in a game like Arkham, it's like, hey, your enemy is, this demonic force. This is a card that is an octopus monster and it's going to try to kill you. In Earthborne Rangers, at least as far as I know, your enemy is time and your own expectations, which is much less harder to visualize. But when it works, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's way more like real life.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Andrew.
Last up, sorcery.
Sorcery. Hey, you see that new art piece?
Yeah, I don't know how to say the name though. How do you pronounce
it?
Peleus?
Peleus? It's cool. And who's the artist on this?
It's the same guy that did Giant Shark.
Alan
Grapple
Pollock, right?
Shot, and,
So, he was
Drowns.
talking about, did you watch any of
The
the
Good
video
Boy.
stuff or
I haven't
the
seen
article?
it yet.
He was talking about, like he was just overjoyed to be able to do like surrealism for this piece. He was like, it's really a stretch effectively. Like this is a night that in the Mort d'Arthur, I think had a relationship with the Lady of the
Sorry,
Lake.
did you say Arthur?
Mort d'Arthur. It's like the big compilation of all the Arthur. It's like
I see.
kind of the source book for a lot of this. But this was the night that was involved in the Lady of the Lake. They were like involved.
Isn't who's Lady of the Lakes?
Is it start with a G, but it's not Guinevere? It's the other
Guinevere?
one. Guinevere or a...
Wait, no. Doesn't she? She has a. Anyways, we'll get into that later. I thought she had a son that was notable. Where's Sir Lancelot came from?
So I read this guy's myth, and like the basic myth is I think he falls in love with somebody.
His mom is Lady of the Lake.
Oh, there you go.
So is this his dad? Hold on.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
So yeah, I was gonna say maybe I'm just now old enough to realize it, but the like crazy abstraction of the Arthurian myth is I'm a big fan of, like the Green Knight.
They're
the movie that
crazy.
came out. Yeah,
It's all
and people
nuts.
just going off the wall with it.
Check this story out. So this guy, like, was in love with this dame, of some kind. It wasn't. It was different. Yeah, and then was just like outside of the gates, like full of sorrow, trying to woo her, and she said no to him and all this. And then one of the other knights, I thought it was Lancelot, but one of the knights came along and was like, "Hey, I really feel for you, man. I'm gonna put your armor on, and I'm gonna go trick her into thinking that it's you, and then she'll fall in love with me, but then I'll convince her to actually fall in love with you because I don't know. It's like this kind of
switch
thing.
the armor.
Yeah, so he goes in and then he's like charming, and then she's like, "Oh, I'm in love with you." And then he's like, "No, you should be in love with this guy. He's the guy that actually loves you." And then he's like, "Actually, JK, I also love you." And so then they get together, and then Sir Peleus is like really upset. And then the myth is that he goes in and he finds them together in bed. He goes in to check because the guy hasn't come out and been like, "Hey, she's going to fall in love with you." So he goes into the castle, finds them in bed together asleep. And in a moment of clarity, he sets his sword in the middle of the bed and walks out. And so they wake up and they're like, he could have killed us. And then that is like the start of like the Sir Peleus kind of thing.
The honorable Sir Peleus.
Yeah.
So that reminds me of a plot from another artful classic movie, Dumb and Dumber, where Harry goes to build steam for Lloyd with the girl, and then Harry ends up on a date with the girl instead, and hijinks ensue.
I think it was based on.
I was gonna say, did you
just
know?
Like how Brother Art that was based on the Odyssey.
And then Lloyd shows up later, and they're in bed together, but they're handcuffed and in trouble, and he's got the gun. You remember? Follow me now.
Does he leave the gun?
Harry shows up. Lloyd's actually, tied. Anyways, it's basically the same story.
It's all Arthurian myth, really.
Yeah, Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, and then they don't get on the bus at the end, just like. I mean, wow.
The town is back.
Wow.
We did it.
We learned something. That was
got
it
to the
on
news.
sorcery?
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Oh, no, that's not it. Sorry. Courtesan Cup, big sorcery event is happening. Sorcery social event. June 14th through 16th in Baltimore, Maryland. I've seen all the qualifiers happening and all
Tons
the
of
tournament
them.
reports.
Yeah. You're doing a good job over there on the East Coast.
Yeah. If I was not, well, I'm not really. If my wife was not going to be extremely pregnant around that time, I was considering going to that event.
Same.
But,
Yeah. I really want to play that water deck somewhere competitive. And for no reason. I just want to see how it does. I really do. I thought Jesse was going to be there and he was going to be able to take it, but he was thinking that he wouldn't. He was thinking about going to the Baltimore event, but now he's not sure that he's going to make it.
Coming from like Australia, New Zealand is crazy.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I've looked at the other way around. It's like
it's far away.
It is about as far away as you can get.
Also in classic sorcery tradition, Simon talked about having the dust store ready last week, and it wasn't. Yeah. Continuing a long tradition of Simon unfortunately saying things that he later gets into trouble for.
That's why they pay the Sayers the big bucks.
Yeah.
They gotta take a lot of
but I do think it's very close.
I feel for Simon. I feel for anyone who commits to a date of any kind. It's so hard when you involve anyone else to get anything done on time.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to, right? Like he can't just make the dust store appear.
And I feel like Eric's wild. I don't know what's going on. Eric who knows what Eric's doing back behind the scenes. He could just come in one day and be like, "Here's my idea for the dust store." And then it's like, well, that takes us another month now.
I love it.
Or he could be like, "This isn't good enough. We're not ready." So who knows? We don't get to hear that side of the story. But Simon's always a good sport, taking it in the Discord.
I'm excited about it. Whenever it happens.
When it happens, it happens.
Like a fiend.
Sorcery is a game for camels, not hares. You know what I'm saying? Like it's about just slowly enjoying it.
It really has been fun for that to be true. Like I played a lot of sorcery at various points so far, and I don't feel like I'm in a rush.
I think I'm going to be playing some more this weekend.
Personally, as someone who constantly has gotten into games, and then you guys play them way more and get way better than me, and then another set releases before I can get to my cards again. This 1 year release schedule is so awesome. Yeah, it's like it keeps me in the game, honestly.
I think a lot of people are the same way.
Yeah,
and as people about to have kids, I think I'll be a kindred spirit.
100%. One set a year for the dads.
Yeah, what did I say?
Dads and the moms.
There's some type of game that I referenced as like a dad.
You did say that. I don't know what that was.
Anyways, that's the end of our list. There's a storm coming, so we're going to get out of here.
We're under a tornado watch. So
we're under a tornado watch. All right. Is it green out there yet? Anyone hear a train?
I don't know. I looked out there. It looks kind of dark and ominous back behind you guys there in the space station.
Well, all that to say, it's a wild time for AI and whether or not Web3 turns into anything of value. And, just, I don't know. I think it's important to to keep your head up and actually decide what's important. What do you really value? You know, there's just too much. There's so much stuff to spend our time on. I find myself falling into the like, why did I just do that for 30 minutes? It contributed nothing to my life. I just was like, I got caught in the YouTube shorts or something, and I'm like, man,
it do be like that.
I wish I had been doing anything else.
I mean, there is also the opposite side of that coin, which is feeling the need to always be productive or to be moving forward. So I find myself, unfortunately, on that side of the train too. It's like, what is this contributing? So I don't know. It's a balance.
Well, Zach, is like Eckhart Tolle said, one moment of silence is greater than any book you could read in terms of spiritual growth. So just keep that in mind.
Did you read that in his book?
No, I listened to him say it, and Jonathan, it took him 6 years to deliver that one message. 6 years to say that, if you can believe it.
Just sit there and be quiet.
Yeah.
We had to watch him for college philosophy class. You get extra credit, and it was me and my friend, and we were just our heads were just constantly
instantly
it was the slowest,
asleep. Yeah,
hardcore show there was.
Perhaps he's because he's so peaceful and mind and all of that, or maybe it's because he's just slow. Thank you all for watching so very much. We appreciate you being here. Go join the Warlord Kickstarter for their launch tomorrow. It's going to be a great one, and we can't wait to see you there. We'll have some videos to do it, and we will see you next time. Thank you.